right, today we're going to talk about Terry Sanderson and Gwyneth Paltrow. Terry Sanderson supposedly ran into Gwyneth Paltrow on a ski slope, but he says she ran into him, supposedly. And this happened 6 years ago, and it's become a really big mess. Greg, why don't you tell us about the videos we're going to watch?
Yeah, Scott, 7 years ago now, and he sued originally for $3 million, a little over $3 million. He's now going after $300,000. So it is in court in Utah. We are not going to base this on Gwyneth Paltrow's scooter incident in the past or Gwyneth Paltrow's this or candle or that. We're going to base this on what we see in this video. We're going to tell you what we believe. And there's mostly Gwyneth Paltrow and the attorneys in this, although we will get to see an example of Terry Sanderson.
Yes.
Please get quickly to the question.
Absolutely. Do you remember during your deposition being played just a portion of Apple's instructor, Carrie Oakes, her deposition, wherein she said that, yes, Moses was saying, "Mommy, mommy, watch me."
That she was saying, I don't remember, that while they were skiing, they were saying that?
Yeah.
I don't remember that, no.
All right, okay. And so you don't remember then changing your testimony in your deposition, admitting that that is what happened?
I'm sure if Carrie Oakes said, I'm saying I don't remember him saying, "Watch me, watch me."
Okay. May I approach, Your Honor?
You may.
I'm going to hand you a copy of your deposition.
I'm going to need my reading glasses, unfortunately. Sorry about that.
I don't think there's an...
All right, on this one, I think I'll go first because I don't think I've ever gone first on a show before. So I'll go first. So throughout these videos, let's pay attention to how everything changes from the minute little things to the big things. We're going to be looking at blink rate and something that I always term, I think a lot of people call duck mouth, because we're going to see a lot of that. And where it happens and where it pops up in here, that's really important. So let's pay attention to the cues that we're looking for that might say this person is being deceptive, or if she's being honest. What are we looking for? And in this section, everything to me so far looks like she's not being deceptive or anything at all. She looks fairly relaxed. She's an actress. She spent a lot of time looking at herself in the mirror and seeing herself on camera. So she knows what she looks like when she's practicing her resting face. So she's got a resting face down. The resting face, as everyone probably knows, is that face where you're sitting there and you think nobody's looking at you. And so you're just relaxed. Sometimes it's bad, sometimes it's good, but she's got hers spot on. And she tries to keep it up by doing that little duck mouth thing with her mouth. And as she focuses on what she's trying to say, we see that disappear, and then she pushes it back out again. I'm not going to make the face, but I know everyone watching this so far knows what I'm talking about. So let's pay attention to that as we go through, because that will change off and on as we go. And the more you see it, the less that she's not as deep into her thought about what she's going to say. But when she comes out of her thought, or she finishes delivering her idea or her concept, whatever it is, her answer, then we see her go back into it. Mark, what do you got?
Yeah, so let me talk a little bit about the baseline here. You'll be seeing a lot of lip retractions from her. That's when those lips disappear. And people will often put that alongside the idea of somebody being under stress or pressure or reserving their judgment sometimes. Just to let you know, she does that all the time. I baselined her on the James Corden show. It's high pressure for her there. There was also somebody else being interviewed. So it was more conversational, more happening that she's not prepared for. And you see exactly what you see in this video here, apart from the blink rate. Her blink rate is right up in this, I would say. So she's probably not used to being in court or not so happy, or in a calm way about being in this particular situation. But in terms of those smiles that she's given, which may look to some people a little bit insincere, and in terms of the lip retractions that you're seeing from her, that is absolutely standard for her. Chase, what do you see?
So I think this concealed smile that we're seeing in this clip here is maybe what I would call a victory smile, only because she feels like she might be winning over, or like winning against this attorney who's dressed like I'm not even going to say it. Let's talk about the blink rate here. You'll typically hear two main points when somebody talks about blinking fast. You'll hear them tell you about stress and cognitive load. This is neither of those, in my opinion. I think this is the professionally learned behavior of flirtation. And you can differentiate this, according to me, from other types of faster blinking by looking at three things. Number one, the conversation keeps going fluidly as the blink rate continues. Number two, she continues to move her eyes in different directions while continuing this blink rate. So she's not locked onto a potential threat. Number three, she has a very low shutter speed. And this is just the speed that our eyelid travels as it closes and then opens again. And when you watch this again, you're going to see the perfect textbook eye blink of flirtation. And I think Gwyneth isn't doing this on purpose or consciously, but she is doing this because it's probably got her quick rapport with people in the past, and her brain remembered this method. Greg, what do you got?
So, Jason, we're on the same exact page. When we talk about flirtation, forget sexual flirtation for a minute. Think of what a child does. If you put a child in the front row of a plane and they make a way of contacting a person 5 rows back in closed space, that's what I call flirtation. And I agree with you here. I think that batting of the eyes is something that's been successful for her to rapport build. That forehead rise is rapport building. But I'll go back to her in just a second. She didn't have to work really hard. This woman is desperate for her attention. It is clear. Look at that brow up. Even when she is going at her, watch this attorney. That request for approval as her brow goes up and she's asking her to approve as she's asking questions. And her blink rate goes through the roof. And her blink rate is not flirtation when she's asking those questions. She has a solicitous tone of voice as she's trying to get closer to Gwyneth Paltrow. Now, all people are different about how starstruck they are and that kind of thing. But if I had an attorney who seemed that starstruck in front of my opponent, I'd probably be looking for a different attorney. Just me, just my opinion. Now, with Gwyneth Paltrow, when she's holding her lip prim and doing that, I think it's part of her baseline. Mark, I went and watched her on a couple of the night shows with Kimmel and those kind of things, and you get the same thing. You're exactly right. That blink rate will increase when she is, paying attention and trying to connect. One thing to note, often when people's blink rate goes through the roof, they break eye contact when it's caused by stress. What we're not seeing here is a break in eye contact. We're seeing a really good eye contact. She does, however, eye block when she's confronted about her change in testimony. But then that big toothy smile that's part of who she is comes up. This is the organism doing what made the organism successful.
The eyewitness is you.
Yes.
Please get quickly to the question.
Absolutely. Do you remember during your deposition being played just a portion of Apple's instructor, Carrie Oakes, her deposition, wherein she said that, yes, Moses was saying, "Mommy, mommy, watch me."
That she was saying, I don't remember that while they were skiing, they were saying that?
Yeah.
I don't remember that, no.
All right, okay. And so you don't remember then changing your testimony in your deposition, admitting that is what happened?
I'm sure if Carrie Oakes said, I'm saying I don't remember him saying, watch me, watch me.
Okay. May I approach, Your Honor?
You may.
I'm going to hand you a copy of your deposition.
I'm going to need my reading glasses, unfortunately. Sorry about that.
I don't think there's an objection.
Okay, read it.
Yes, the objection said vague as to time.
Yes.
Yes, and then how did you respond?
I said I can still watch my children ski and be skied directly into my back by someone.
And then you continued.
Which is what happened.
Exactly. So you were watching your children when you alleged that you were skied directly into your back by someone.
My daughter was down the hill. My son was to my left. So I was skiing. My eyes were not fixated only on my son when Mr. Sanderson skied directly into my back.
Okay. And so when Miss Oakes, who's going to testify next week, said that your son Moses was saying, "Mommy, mommy, watch me," that's who you were watching, right?
That's vague as to time, Your Honor.
Right. Yes.
Just overruled. Go ahead.
Thank you.
Sorry, what was the question?
Yeah. When Moses is saying, "Mommy, mommy, watch me," that's who you were looking at when you were when you were skied directly into your back.
I do not recall Moses saying, "Mommy, mommy, watch me" on the ski slope.
Okay. Well, Apple was down further, right?
Yes.
She didn't see it.
No.
Okay. And Moses, he was the one, at least according to Carrie Oakes, was calling your attention.
Okay.
Okay. 9-year-old, did he want more attention to have somebody watch them rather than 11?
Not necessarily.
Okay. Moses was skiing above you, though, right? He hadn't gotten down as far as you.
He was on my left.
And up.
I was on the right. He was, He was on the left side of the slope. Yes, I believe kind of a little bit uphill.
Okay. And that's where your attention was when you were hit, allegedly, in the back.
I don't know where my attention was the moment I was struck in the back. I'm sorry.
Okay, well, that's what you said, which is what happened.
He struck me in the back. Yes, that's exactly what happened.
Okay, I know, but you said, I can still watch my children ski.
Yes,
and
meaning
directly into my back by someone, which is what happened.
Yes, exactly.
What's the pending question? It sounds like they're saying the exact same thing.
What's the question?
The question is, you were watching your children ski when you were struck in the back.
So that's asked and answered, Your Honor.
Overruled?
I was skiing and looking downhill as you do, and I was skied directly into by Mr. Sanderson.
Okay. And your 9-year-old son, you will admit, was on your left and up a bit.
To my recollection.
Okay. All right. And Carrie Oakes is the one who says that he was the one calling your attention.
You'll have to speak to Miss Oakes.
We will. All right. So.
All right, Greg, what do you got?
Yeah, I'm going to jump ahead for just a minute and tell you, we always talk about eye accessing. You'll rarely hear me talk about it on here only because I'll talk about, when a person's doing internal voice or they're doing emotional. But often the questions are so convoluted that you can't get a single sensory channel question asked. However, this is an exception and a beautiful one. If you're not familiar with eye accessing, it simply means that when a person goes to a place in their head for information, their eyes move around in their head. Now, what we do is we look for a baseline or a normal for that person. In order to do that, you have to ask a question and they have to access that information. And she does a beautiful job of it. When she's asked where her son is on the slope, she does some scrambling around as she looks over this way to try to figure out, how do I phrase this? And all that is convoluted because she's working around in her head where to go next. But then after she drops her glasses, she comes back up and she realizes, or she starts to internalize and visualize what's happening and watch her eyes move up to her upper left quadrant for visual accessing as she describes what's happening. She's allowed to answer that question in narrative form, which means her brain is working instead of poke, prod. Beautiful example of that. When she first starts off and she asks her these questions, you see her prim mouth illustrate at this point. She closes her lips very tightly and then she comes out and says, that's what I said, and she's standing by it. And then this attorney says exactly to confirm her story, which is kind of odd. I think she's not thinking ahead to what might be said, and she's spitting out words without realizing it. I think she is probably a beat or two behind what's going on in the room. Then I love the watch of Gwyneth Paltrow as she's looking at her like, spit it out. Almost like, hey, hurry up, spit this out. Her brow is up, her lips are together, her eyes are slightly enlarged, and her head thrust forward. And that appears to be part of an illustrator of her, like, hey, come on. And then you can see a little bit of enlarged eyes as if it's disbelief. And then a forward jut of that chin without raising the chin indicates even more disbelief as her upper face shows amusement and her lower face doesn't smile. I think there's a lot of blink rate and stuff going on here, but there's plenty for the rest of you. So I'm going to hop off there and say, Mark, what you got?
So on top of the lawyer looking for approval a great deal, she's also been doing a lot of double shoulder shrugs as well. I think that's to get some kind of rapport, and we'll see that develop as we go, but probably not a great tactic. There's also the adapting of the microphone at the start. That's when she's moving the microphone, and really she doesn't need to move that microphone. She can be heard fine. So it indicates that there's probably some level of discomfort, stress, pressure going on for her. The defendant there. So the difference between that where her lips rest normally and when they purse forward even more, which would show disagreement. I think she disagrees at one point with the line of questioning. So go back, take a look at that, see where her lips come to rest, which they are full lips, so they come quite forward, but then see, is there a moment where they push forward even more? That I would suggest is she's disagreeing or with the line of questioning happening there. Her blink rate is up a little bit more as well. Yeah, flirtation, but also there's a level of stress as well, I would suggest. Now, people will say, but she's an actress. She can do all of this stuff. Look, nobody prepares for being in a court like that. Only really the lawyers do. And even they're caught a little bit by surprise. Nobody really prepares for being argued with at that level for an hour or more. Nothing really prepares you for that. Although you can do prep, and everybody here helps prep people, nothing preps you for that obnoxious level of hard, argumentative questioning. And so, of course, we're going to see somebody a little bit off balance, but all the same, she seems a little more in control than the lawyer at this point. Chase, what do you got on this one?
Yeah, I happen to agree with you here. Gwyneth is displaying all the signs that we look for in confidence and certainty on the stand, especially. The grin on her face, I think, is most likely amusement at the opposing counsel. And if you could imagine a face you might make when someone's selling you a load of BS, and you know it's a load of BS, there's that amusement on your face as you listen to them kind of detail all of this out. You're kind of doing the same little amusement there. There's confident eye contact. There's linguistic fluency. She doesn't have problems with her language or her words there. She's comfortable and accurate body narration. So not like he was off to my left and then the hand moves and it's not off to the left. It's just kind of pointing forward. It's accurate body narration where she's pointing the right direction. And I think it's funny how this attorney, who kind of looks like a Saturday Night Live character of an attorney, continues to try to twist this narrative and even twist Gwyneth's words right in front of her. And there's one solid and confident story that she continues to tell, and the attorney just continues to just awkwardly re-message all of this. And at the end of this clip, when the attorney's able to get Gwyneth to admit her son was slightly uphill, the smile on that attorney's face is something that will tell you a lot about where, if that is the victory that makes her smile, you can instantly measure where she thinks she is in this case. Scott, what do you got?
All right. Yeah, that's cool. I think all of her movements so far are very fluid and smooth. Not a whole lot of jerky things going on. She's not quite in loping. I'm talking about Gwyneth, not quite loping yet. And loping is when you're just talking and things are moving right along. But she's getting there. She's getting there slowly but surely. Her cadence is normal for the baseline we've seen so far. This is still part of the baseline we're putting together for her. But it does slow down in some places for clarity, as we see when she gets a little fired up there for a second. Then when the attorney asks about the 9-year-old wanting more attention, then we say classic, rehearsed, non-Duchenne smile. And that's the smile where it's not condescending yet, because she fires one of those off in a couple minutes, but it's that thing where it's the one where she's practiced in front of the mirror. It's one that's, because I looked at a bunch of pictures of her when she gets her picture made. That's the smile she does. So if you want to see what and it's a fake smile, but it's a real smile. And you have to smile all the time. You have to be able to pull it off. You got to be able to go, yeah, okay, and have your smile for him. And that's the one she's been working on for years. And I think it's fine. It worked great. But if you know what the difference in a real smile and a fake smile is, a Duchenne smile and non-Duchenne, then that really stands out. One of the things we always talk about with the Duchenne smiles, you may have heard it 1,000 times, is when the person smiles. One of the people I say, you can tell with the wrinkles on the side of their eyes. If there are no wrinkles, they're not really smiling. No, we can do wrinkles just by squinting our eyes. So, but the wrinkles, when you do that, come straight up. They come straight down like this, and it's an odd looking wrinkle. But when you really smile, the wrinkles come in like this, or the side of the eye, it starts right there like that at an angle. So that's what the difference is. And we're not seeing that here. We're just seeing the squint smile. Then as her head goes to the left, and she smiles, it's like she's looking at the attorney, like Amber looks at our dog Hattie when Hattie's had a nap and is waking up. It's like, aren't you adorable? Come here to me. You're just precious. I can't stand. That's the face she's got on her. So I'm under the impression that's a little bit condescending at that point. She does get a little worked up when she takes her glasses off, but she keeps it under control. But I can understand why she's mad at that point. We see all the classic, the hallmarks of anger there, but on a very small scale. Her nostrils flare a little bit. Her breathing increases some. She's just a little bit in the brow, not a whole lot. I don't know if that's from Botox or what, because she does have quite a bit of movement in there at times. It's not dead. So, and her tone changes a little bit too. It gets a little bit stronger as she when she pulls her glasses off and looks her dead in the eye and starts talking to her. But with that constant blink, it's a little tough. All right, that's all I got.
The eyewitness is you.
Objection. Okay, read it.
Yes. The objection said vague as to time.
Yes.
Yes. And then how did you respond?
I said I can still watch my children ski and be skied directly into my back by someone.
And then you continued.
Which is what happened.
Exactly. So you were watching your children when you alleged that you were skied directly into your back by someone.
My daughter was down the hill. My son was to my left. So I was skiing. My eyes were not fixated only on my son when Mr. Sanderson skied directly into my back.
Okay. And so when Miss Oakes, who's going to testify next week, said that your son Moses was saying, "Mommy, Mommy, watch me," that's who you were watching, right?
That's vague as to time, Your Honor.
Right. Yes.
Just overruled. Go ahead.
Thank you.
Sorry, what was the question?
Yeah. When Moses is saying, "Mommy, Mommy, watch me," that's who you were looking at when you were when you were skied directly into your back.
I do not recall Moses saying, "Mommy, Mommy, watch me" on the ski slope.
Okay. Well, Apple was down further, right?
Yes.
She didn't see it.
No.
Okay. And Moses, he was the one, at least according to Carrie Oakes, was calling your attention.
Okay.
Okay. 9-year-old, did he want more attention to have somebody watch them rather than 11?
Not necessarily.
Okay. Moses was skiing above you, though, right? He hadn't gotten down as far as you.
He was on my left.
And up.
I was on the right. He was, he was on the left side of the slope. Yes, I believe kind of a little bit uphill.
Okay. And that's where your attention was when you were hit, allegedly, in the back.
I don't know where my attention was the moment I was struck in the back. I'm sorry.
Okay, well, that's what you said, which is what happened.
He struck me in the back. Yes, that's exactly what happened.
Okay, I know, but you said, "I can still watch my children ski."
Yes,
and
meaning
directly into my back by someone, which is what happened.
Yes, exactly.
What's the pending question? It sounds like they're saying the exact same thing.
What's the question?
The question is, you were watching your children ski when you were struck in the back.
So that's asked and answered, Your Honor.
Overruled.
I was skiing and looking downhill as you do, and I was skied directly into by Mr. Sanderson.
And your 9-year-old son, you will admit, was on your left and up a bit.
To my recollection.
Okay. All right. And Carrie Oakes is the one who says that he was the one calling your attention.
You'll have to speak to Miss Oakes.
We will. All right. So you were going along relatively slowly. Is that fair?
Yes.
Okay. I'm just going to kind of ask you a couple questions. So let me know if anything I say is not accurate. Okay.
Okay.
So you're going down relatively slowly when all of a sudden you heard a strange rustling noise behind you.
Yes.
Okay. And you felt like a rush of air in a strange way.
Yes.
Okay. And 2 skis slid in between my skis.
That's correct.
And all of a sudden, there was a body from the whole front of a body pressing into my back.
That's right.
Okay. Like, we'll talk about this in a minute. And there was a man behind me pressing into me. How did you know it was a man?
Because he was making some strange noises that sounded male. And he was large. So I assumed it was a male.
Okay, he was large?
I felt all my back pressing.
Okay. All right. There was a man pressing behind me, pressing into me. I was extremely upset.
Well, I was confused at first, and I didn't know exactly what was happening. It's a very strange thing to happen on a ski slope. And
I agree.
And I froze, and I would say I got very upset a couple seconds later.
Okay.
Now, if you don't know who we are, we're the Behavior Panel. And I'm Scott Rouse, I'm a body language expert and analyst, and I train law enforcement in the military in interrogation and body language. And I created the #1 online body language course, bodylanguagetactics.com, with Greg Hartley. Mark?
Mark Bowden. I'm an expert in human behavior and body language, help people all over the world to stand out, win trust, gain credibility every time they communicate, including some of the leaders of the G7. Chase.
Hey, I'm Chase Hughes. I did 20 years in the U.S. military, published the #1 best-selling book in behavior profiling, influence, and persuasion. Greg?
Greg Hartley. I'm a former Army interrogator, interrogation instructor, resistance to interrogation instructor. Written 10 books on body language and behavior, including one that's in the top 10 for business negotiation, the most dangerous business book you'll ever read, and put together the body language tactics course with Scott.
All right, Mark, what do you got?
Yeah. Usually if somebody's being deceptive, they won't necessarily change or alter somebody's idea of the feeling that they had. In this particular instance, she's very happy to say, no, she wasn't upset. She was confused. She corrects the feeling. Now, why is that important? If you're making up a story, you usually don't have the feeling attached to it. You've got a whole bunch of other feelings attached to it because it didn't happen. And also you got a bunch of feelings going around the deception. So it's hard to get hold of the feeling. She's able to locate her feeling of confusion and say, no, I wasn't upset. I was confused. That's important in terms of her truth telling. She also shows that this was unexpected, an unexpected event for her, because she says, first of all, she froze and then she tries to move out the way and then she gets angry. So that's fight and flight. That's classic fight and flight. And you'll hear her later on tell exactly the same story in exactly the same order of fight and flight. If you're going in to crash into somebody else, you prepare for the crash. Even if it's a split moment, you've done it yourself when you've maybe, smashed into you haven't smashed into a car, but most people have been in some kind of, small or large accident in a vehicle. You remember that just moments before it was going to happen, you got ready for it. You knew something was going to occur and you got ready for it. She's not ready for this. She has no story about being ready for this. She only has a story about it being unexpected. That's really important. So it already indicates to me from a behavioral point of view that this was unexpected for her. She wasn't prepared. For it to be negligence, to my understanding, you have to know that what you're doing is going to cause a problem and still continue doing it, because that would be negligent. Like, I knew this was going to cause a problem, but I carried on. This doesn't, in my mind, show any idea that she may have been being negligent at this point. But I'm willing to have my mind changed on it. Scott, what do you think?
All right. I think Gwyneth shows a lot of restraint here. So, and I think we're seeing a lot of duck mouth, and we're seeing a lot of that blink rate as she gets ready to answer the questions. When she's being asked a question, you can see her going, she reverts back to her duck mouth thing, and then her blink rate starts going really, really high. But I think those have become such a part of her baseline that it's just a part of her now. Because you're right, Mark. On TV or when she's doing interviews and things, we're seeing the same stuff there. Not as much of the duck mouth thing, but a whole lot of the blinking. So I think that's part of her baseline now. And when she says that's correct, then her tone becomes a little bit stern. But she makes sure the jury knows that's happened, because she looks at the jury. So she makes sure they know what's going on. At this point, I can't decide whether this attorney is for her or for the other, for Terry, what's his face? I mean, this is some of the worst questioning I've ever seen in my life. I'm not an attorney. I don't know. She could have had some plan behind it. I can't figure it out. I can't. Why would they put her there to do that? Not because she's a woman, but because of the style she's using to ask questions. I don't understand this style. Chase, what do you got?
Yeah, there's a YouTube channel called Law and Lumber. And this guy's name is Rob, who runs the channel. I called him today. And he said, quote, this is the worst deposition he's ever seen in his life. He's a lawyer. So I think you're right on. But the facial expressions, the tone of the attorney are exaggerated, so unusual, just unbelievable. So just watch her face in the beginning of this clip when it comes back up here in just a second. And when I analyze testimonies, I'm looking at somebody on the stand, which I get people send me stuff all the time for me to do remotely. I look for 8 things, and here are those 8 things: stress indicators, changes in blink rate, loss of fluency, changes in tone or pitch, changes in posture, protective or fearful gestures, which is essentially when the limbs kind of move in to protect arteries. The shoulders come up, arms come in like that. Statement inconsistencies there, which are like qualifiers, mini confessions, backtracking, question repetition, that kind of stuff. There are none of these here at all. And the only exception is the blink rate, but that's not a change in blink rate because we're looking for changes in blink rate. And we've already talked about why this might be happening as a flirtation mechanism instead of a stress indicator. Greg, what do you got?
Yeah, a couple of things. When we talk about baseline, we're talking about baseline in the current condition, in the current situation. But we can also look back and see that it's normal for her when she's talking to. We're not talking about your baseline when you're eating Cheetos on the couch, as I always say. We're talking about in this situation. We can see a fairly good baseline for her. Let me also say, Mark, I think she has prepared. And by that, I mean coming in with a certain kind of a face. I think she's containing her natural tendencies. Scott, I think some of the duck mouth you see is her preventing a smile when she's like, what the hell are you talking about? And I think there's some containment there. So she's keenly aware of that. Now, this is a balancing act because there's a jury, and we don't know who this jury is. These could be everyday people who could see her as cold and arrogant. So she has to be careful with all that at the same time. So that blink rate, who knows? It could be eyelashes. It could be anything that causes this with all the things that go up. But we know we've seen it many times on Fallon, on other places where we've seen this. She punctuates using her lips, which I find interesting. And there's one time we get to see a quote unquote normal face that isn't her prepared for court face. When this woman says, I agree with you, watch her face relax. It's not the same face we see the rest of the court. So it makes me think that's probably her face when she's talking to people, when she's hanging out. But none of us are normal in court sitting there. Even those of us who go there all the time are not going to be as comfortable as we would be in another place. Here's something to watch. When we talk about baseline and we talk about punctuating, you don't need to be us to notice that a person who is talking normally and they're going along and they're punctuating their words with their hands is probably truthful because they're punctuating what they're thinking. When they start punctuating out of sequence with what they're saying or out of cadence with what they're saying, like a bad kung fu movie, probably not telling the truth. If you watch her when she's talking, finally, when she's allowed to have a narrative and tell the story, she's talking with downward tones. She's using her hands to illustrate. Her head is moving. Her voice changes, the tone changes, the cadence changes to illustrate congruency with her message. The problem is this questioner is asking her leading yes and no questions. And when you ask a leading yes and no question, you prohibit the person from having to answer anything meaningful. And if you're interrogating someone and you're doing that, they can sit there all day, because I get to say yes, no, yes, no, yes, no. That doesn't create stress. It's just a bad questioning technique. And if you want to know if this woman's certain about what she's doing, meaning the questioner, watch the concern in her forehead as she starts to take these next steps and lean into Gwyneth Paltrow. I think she really wants to build rapport with Gwyneth Paltrow more than she wants to be here doing this hard interview. Just my opinion. That's all I got.
The eyewitness is you.
You were going along relatively slowly. Is that fair?
Yes.
Okay. I'm just going to kind of ask you a couple questions. So let me know if anything I say is not accurate. Okay. So you're going down relatively slowly when all of a sudden you heard a strange rustling noise behind you.
Yes.
Okay. And you felt like a rush of air in a strange way.
Yes.
Okay. And 2 skis slid in between my skis.
That's correct.
And all of a sudden, there was a body from the whole front of a body pressing into my back.
That's right.
Okay. Like, we'll talk about this in a minute. And there was a man behind me pressing into me. How did you know it was a man?
Because he was making some strange noises that sounded male, and he was large. So I assumed it was a male.
Okay, he was large?
I felt all my back pressing.
Okay. All right, there was a man pressing behind me, pressing into me. Mm-hmm. I was extremely upset.
Well, I was confused at first, and I didn't know exactly what was happening. It's a very strange thing to happen on a ski slope. And
I agree.
And I froze, and I would say got very upset a couple seconds later.
Okay. Let me continue on here. I just want to make sure that I got this all right. I didn't know if it was an intentional assault of a sexual nature.
Right.
Okay. Was he grinding and thrusting or something, or just the noises? What made you think it was a sexual assault?
So that was a quick thought that went through my head when I was trying to reconcile what was happening. I was skiing, and two skis came between my skis, forcing my legs apart, and then there was a body pressing against me, and there was a very strange grunting noise. So my brain was trying to make sense of what was happening. I thought, is this a practical joke? Is someone like doing something perverted? This is really, really strange. My mind was going very, very quickly, and I was trying to ascertain what was happening.
Okay. And I think you said, I didn't know if it was an accident, but he was groaning and grunting in a very disturbing way.
Yes, there was a sort of groan coming out of his mouth.
Okay. Then you said, I froze.
Yes.
We kept skiing.
Right.
We went to the right.
Yes.
We came crashing down together.
That's right.
Okay. You said this man was behind me on the mountain. My knee and our skis were still sort of tangled up. Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Is that yes?
Yes, sorry.
Okay. Our bodies were almost spooning, and I moved away quickly.
Yes.
And my knee splayed open, and I was completely in shock.
Yes.
Okay. All right. I'm going to stop.
All right, Greg, what do you got?
Yeah, so I always say we get the opportunity once in a while to prove our points. This is a great one. I talked about requests for approval with the attorney before, and you could see her forehead up. She doesn't have it here. So this is the one of the few where she's asking Gwyneth Paltrow something she's actually telling, and the forehead drops. So it's a good indicator for you to see requests for approval, that wrinkled brow as somebody's asking you to believe them and not. So if you watch Gwyneth Paltrow, her voice, her hands, everything is, again, back in unison. Now her blink rate is down. She described sights, sounds, feelings, why it felt that way, all at one time. Her cadence shift in tone goes from questioning into questioning when she says, is it a practical joke or somebody doing something perverted? Her fingers spread to show confidence as she's explaining herself. All her arrows are aligned. Now, you could say she's a great actor, but the problem with that is we all have this little thing in our head that switches on fight or flight. And when that fight or flight kicks on, it doesn't matter how good an actor you are. You're going to start to show these things. It's your body. It's your primitive brain versus your brain in control trying to take control. If you really want to watch, get back to that resting odd face. She goes back to that. Her blink rate goes back to increase when she's done. And then you can just pay attention to this woman and pay attention to that request for approval come back up. When she does request for approval, meaning Gwyneth Paltrow, it's at the right time with downward intonation. And that request for approval comes up to say, do you understand me? Perfect timing. Then she adapts and she uses a nod as a regulator, whether it's intentional or not. She's paying attention to this woman and she's nodding as a woman's reading her words. All that's powerful. We say regulators, a way to control conversation. And if you want to try this at work and someone you're having an argument with and you want to get their entire argument, nod while they're talking. It will cause them to keep talking and give you their entire argument before you start to rebut it. Scott, what do you got?
All right. To me, this sounds real. And I won't go over all the things you just covered, Greg, because those are all reasons to me it sounds real. But the important thing is she doesn't go through the minute details of what's happening. Quite often when someone's not being honest and they're telling you a story, they'll start talking about, I felt this, and then I saw this little thing, and I thought that. She's not doing that. She's giving you groups, sections of information. And that's what happens when your limbic system kicks in and you're experiencing something traumatic, an encounter with something traumatic, because your hippocampus doesn't grab things like it normally does, not in a stream. It doesn't get that stream of memories, in other words, that it creates. You just get flashes of it because your brain is doing something else. It's focusing on the problem or whatever's going on. So when you repeat those things, it comes out in these sections of things. That's one of the main reasons when police officers are talking to somebody about what happened, it takes so long. You have to go over and over and over and over with them so they can repiece those things back together. Remember those things that went in between the sections, if those things are even there, because your brain won't catch that when there's something that big and traumatic happening at that point. That's if something's violence happening, violent is happening. I won't get detailed about it. Mark, what do you got?
Yeah. So when you're in this kind of situation where you've experienced some kind of accident and it was a surprise and it was maybe a little bit scary, all your brain experiences it, both sides of your brain. And you've probably heard these ideas that, one side of the brain does different operations from the other side of the brain. That's kind of partially true and partially not true. And you've also experienced this idea of one side of your brain deals with one side of your body movement and the other deals with the other side of your body movement. And that's kind of true and not true at the same time. But let's take the kind of true elements of it. When all of your brain has experienced something and you're in alignment about that, you will start doing symmetrical gestures because your brain is in complete agreement with what went on. Every part of your brain has the same story. Now, of course, if you're a good performer, you can make your body do this. And that's exactly what I'm doing right now. But this is a very easy situation for me to be in because we've made lots and lots of these shows. And I've practiced for years and years and years doing symmetrical gestures on purpose, and I could do it until the day that I die. But if I'm under stress and pressure and trying to tell you a story and having to make that story up at the same time, it would be a massive job for me to do those symmetrical gestures. She's doing them, which would suggest to me that her story at this point is absolutely accurate. She knows it's the truth. All of her mind knows it's the truth. And then she does get asymmetrical. That's true. But she gets asymmetrical when she's doing really good descriptor, illustrator gestures of exactly what was going on. She models exactly what was going on. This is what telling the truth tends to look like. Chase, what do you got on this one?
Yeah, I'll cover this from a very different angle then. So there's one thing to understand when it comes to persuasion, and there's a jury in this room, as I understand it. If you can get a person to believe something is their own idea, there is no ability for that person to resist it. So when you get them to vividly imagine a story like this, with the reading the entire ordeal out loud, the opposing counsel doing this, you're creating an image in a person's mind, a vivid one, that they're going to remember. So this attorney is building a powerful case for Gwyneth with this technique here. And when somebody vividly creates a scene in their brain, they're going to be 10 times more likely to think back as that being their interpretation of the event, which is their own idea. So notice how Gwyneth isn't selling the story. If we're just going to follow down this story narrative really quick, she's not shifting pronouns to assist people in identifying with her side and saying, you have to understand when you get hit. She's not doing that. She's just telling a story, and this is incredibly persuasive. In storytelling, this is called showing, not telling. And she's remaining in first person here, and there's no issues with her staying confident about her recollection. She even narrates the story and feelings of this guy on her back with her hands and her body the entire time. So those are just a couple of things I did not hear you guys say. Everything else I've been crossing off a list down here. That's all I got.
Chase, what if we did this? On this next one, when we come back, let's have a contest and see who can duck face the longest until their turn comes up. Like when I go on, you got to duck face the whole time. I don't have to do it until you go on. And I try to hold as long as I can. You try to hold as long as you can. You want to try that?
Yep, deal.
All right. We won't say anything else about it.
The eyewitness is you.
Continue on here. I just want to make sure that I got this all right. I didn't know if it was an intentional assault of a sexual nature.
Right.
Okay. Was he grinding and thrusting or something, or just the noises? What made you think it was a sexual assault?
So that was a quick thought that went through my head when I was trying to reconcile what was happening. I was skiing and two skis came between my skis, forcing my legs apart, and then there was a body pressing against me, and there was a very strange grunting noise. So my brain was trying to make sense of what was happening. I thought, is this a practical joke? Is someone like doing something perverted? This is really, really strange. My mind was going very, very quickly, and I was trying to ascertain what was happening.
Okay. And I think you said, I didn't know if it was an accident, but he was groaning and grunting in a very disturbing way.
Yes, there was a sort of groan coming out of his mouth.
Okay. Then you said, I froze.
Yes.
We kept skiing.
Right.
We went to the right.
Yes.
We came crashing down together.
That's right.
Okay. You said this man was behind me on the mountain. My knee and our skis were still sort of tangled up.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Is that yes?
Yes, sorry.
Okay. Our bodies were almost spooning, and I moved away quickly.
Yes.
And my knee splayed open, and I was completely in shock.
Yes.
Okay. All right. I'm going to start. I am going to try and be both you and Mr. Sanderson at the same time.
Let's
Fair?
have Bob. Bob can be.
Your Honor, let's have Mr. Sanderson. He's here. Let's
No,
have him.
I don't want to. We're not going to reenact what happened. I think you can ask questions, and
Yes.
if you want to stand and move around in order to
Perfect.
help you with those questions, you can do that. But that's as far as we're going to go.
That's not a problem at all. All right. So since you're not down here, may I ask how tall you are?
I'm just under 5'10".
Okay. I am so jealous.
I think I'm shrinking though.
You and me both. I have to wear 4-inch heels just to make it to 5'5".
Well,
so
they're very nice.
Oh, thank you. So, all right. So, as of right now, I'm Gwyneth Paltrow.
Okay.
Okay. I'm skiing down. Can you tell me with my legs? I don't know. Again, I'm not much of a skier. Are you snow plowing? Are you parallel? Kind of orient my legs first of all. Sorry. I can do this. I can do this.
Not snow plowing, just
Okay.
skis.
All right.
It's hard for me to see where you're standing.
May she come down just to see?
You can.
Is that
walk to where
okay?
you can see better. Or you can walk further forward, Ms. Van
Oh,
Horn.
sure.
Let me see that.
Great. No problem. All right. So,
Well, not the jury can't see that.
The jury, you can go ahead and stand or move wherever you feel you need to see what's going on here.
all right. So, are my feet oriented correctly?
Yes.
Go ahead and tell me how to move them.
I think, skiing down, going to the right.
Okay. So
Okay,
about
probably a little bit further apart.
about like that.
And then two skis slide slowly between my skis.
All right. So my feet are about a foot apart? Would you say 18 inches?
Probably.
Okay. And you believe that two skis slid right between?
That is correct.
Okay. And so all of a sudden you see these two skis coming in between your
Yes.
legs. I would have freaked out too.
And I did.
Okay. So the skis are coming. How far did the skis get in between your legs before you guys fell?
His body pressed up into my back.
Okay.
So I froze. I don't know exactly how far the skis would have come through.
Okay.
Because then I noticed his body pressing against my back.
Okay.
And then it was probably a few good seconds, and then we fell to the right. Somebody must have caught an edge.
Okay. So when you froze and you're skiing together, I think you said at one point you.
Okay, Mark, what do you got?
Yeah, so look, the circus has begun. The fiasco is off here. This has now become some kind of Second City impro. I'm going to be you and Mr. Sanderson, she says, at the same time. So brilliant. So there's this great idea of I'm going to be two people at the same time. Watch the judge, because the judge brings his hand up to his mouth. I don't think the judge can believe this is about to go down, and it is about to go down. Who is it who shouts out, "Let's have Bob"? Let's have Bob. Is that, and I'd love to know who that is. In my mind, I kind of hope it's the defense lawyer saying, "Let Bob do it," because my hope is that Bob is one of the other lawyers, and he wants to get those two lawyers together in front of the jury, bumping and grinding in a very inappropriate manner. I wish that had gone down, but it doesn't. It doesn't happen, unfortunately. And they even suggest they're going to get the plaintiff up, which would have been just brilliant if I would have loved, that would have been, it's a great day to be alive as it is, but that would have made my life if he'd have got up. Anyway, he doesn't. Mr. Sanderson doesn't get up. Paltrow is gleeful at this, as she rightly should be, because this is an utter circus, a bunch of monkeys going down here. What I do love about Paltrow is absolutely now moving into control. She points for where the lawyer should go to. She goes a few good seconds, and with these downward, flat-handed baton gestures, which again substantiate the veracity of her story, but also control the moment. It's an utter circus. It's a fiasco. What a great day to be alive. I'm glad I saw that. It's just brilliant. Greg, what do you got on this one?
Yeah, mostly the same thing. And my one question is, how did this woman get into law school? Because you got to pass the LSAT, which is a hell of a lot of logic in that test. I don't know. But there's no logic whatsoever to getting up. I'm going to do this demonstration. Oh, since I can't have both of us, I'll do it myself and I'll be both of us. The logic just astounds me. And Mark, the best part is, for a minute, let's leave Gwyneth Paltrow off and I'll hit exactly what you hit here in just a second. But the judge, not just amused. You see amusement, meaning his eyes are light and his lower face isn't, but even covers his mouth so he doesn't show a smile, touches his face, rests his hand on his chin, like, I can't believe this is going on. I think the attorney looks like Bill Murray as a lounge singer on Saturday Night Live, walking around with that microphone anyway. She's doing like a bad lounge act. You wonder where her head's at. I got a pretty good idea, but we'll leave it at that. Maybe she's just starstruck because she seems desperately to want Gwyneth Paltrow to like her. And my favorite, well, let's take Gwyneth Paltrow because I love, like you said, she's directing her where to stand, and she's amused. Her lower lips are pursed really tight, but her upper face is amused. You can't miss it. But watch Terry, poor Terry, in the back, in the chair. His feet don't touch the floor, so they're sitting on the edges, and he's adapting like all hell, rubbing, his feet are dancing, and he's even twisting in the chair. I would be too. That's a good indicator that nervous energy needs to go somewhere. And if that were my attorney, it would probably be a little bit more of a circus in that chair than it is with him. Chase, what do you got?
So this was hard to watch. The behavior of this attorney is just bizarre. These mannerisms might have made you feel off. And one of the reasons that this might be is the behaviors all broadcast uncertainty and self-doubt. And her rapid shifts of focus when somebody speaks, the lack of confident movement, and the shifts of in the tone of her voice for approval all add to this, giving you this subconscious or gut feeling of something's off. And if you had a funny feeling, this is what's causing that. As far as Gwyneth, she's still exhibiting the same baseline behaviors with one exception in this story, one exception. She says, I noticed his body is pressed against my back. And this is a shift into telling and not showing. It's normal in this instance. This statement comes right after she showed the same thing. Body was against her back. This is what she used. And I'm only pointing this out so that you can look for these in other people's stories in this trial or anywhere else in your life. Typically, you'll hear sensing words when someone drops into telling instead of showing in a story, like saw, noticed, felt, realized, heard, smelled, etc. And that's all I got. Scott?
All right. I think pretty much Gwyneth's body language is smooth and it's unstressed. It's really fluid. And then here again, her vocal tone is normal. Everything seems normal. This is where the dang thing goes off the rails because Matt Foley from the SNL sketch comes out and he's like, from the van down by the river, he comes out and he's coming forward. The attorney looks like she's getting ready to sing the Rainbow Song. And then like you were saying, Greg, Terry looks sitting back there looking like a dang ventriloquist puppet or something. He's back there just trying to stay on his seat, and the whole thing is just out of control. I can't decide again if the attorney is for her or him, because she's so wrapped up in trying to be friends with Gwyneth Paltrow, she doesn't know what to do. She can't hardly stand it. The whole thing's out of control at this point. Chase, you didn't do a duck mouth, man.
He did.
Was that your duck mouth? I was going hard, man.
I've been doing it the whole time.
The eyewitness is you.
I am going to try and be both you and Mr. Sanderson at the same time.
Let's have Bob. Bob can be.
Your Honor, let's have Mr. Sanderson. He's here. Let's
No,
have
I don't want to. We're not going to reenact what happened. I think you can ask questions, and
Yes.
if you want to stand and move around in order to help
Perfect.
you with those questions, you can do that. But that's as far as we're going to go.
That's not a problem at all. All right. So since you're not down here, may I ask how tall you are?
I'm just under 5'10".
Okay. I am so jealous.
I think I'm shrinking though.
You and me both. I have to wear 4-inch heels just to make it to 5'5".
Well,
so
they're very nice.
Oh, thank you. So, all right. So, as of right now, I'm Gwyneth Paltrow.
Okay.
Okay. I'm skiing down. Can you tell me with my legs? I don't know. Again, I'm not much of a skier. Are you snow plowing? Are you parallel? Kind of orient my legs first of all. Sorry. I can do this. I can do this.
Not snow plowing, just
Okay.
skis.
All right.
It's hard for me to see where you're standing.
May she come down just to see?
You can.
Is that
walk to where
okay?
you can see better. Or you can walk further forward, Miss Van.
Oh, sure.
See that.
Great. No problem. All right. So,
Well, enough, but the jury can't see that.
The jury, you can go ahead and stand or move wherever you feel you need to see what's going on here.
all right. So, are my feet oriented correctly?
Yes.
Go ahead and tell me how to move them.
I think, skiing down, going to the right.
Okay. So
Okay,
about
probably a little bit further apart.
about like that.
And then 2 skis slide slowly between my skis.
All right. So my feet are about what, a foot apart? Would you say 18 inches?
Probably.
Okay. And you believe that 2 skis slid right between.
That is correct.
Okay. And so all of a sudden you see these 2 skis coming in between your
Yes.
legs. I would have freaked out too.
And I did.
Okay. So the skis are coming. How far did the skis get in between your legs before you guys fell?
His body pressed up into my back.
Okay.
So I froze. I don't know exactly how far the skis would have come through.
Okay.
Because then I noticed his body pressing against my back.
Okay.
And then it was probably a few good seconds, and then we fell to the right. Somebody must have caught an edge.
Okay. So when you froze and you're skiing together, I think you said at one point
I'll tell you why Terry's getting so upset, because he's working out that he's paying for everybody's lawyer at the end of this.
That's exactly right. That's what I was thinking. He's like, shit, these are good lawyers.
Not just his lawyers, who are terrible. He's going to pay for her as well. Because that's the
figured it
deal.
out. He's like, oh, these are good lawyers. This is what a good lawyer looks like.
Yeah, you're right. That's what it is.
I think you said at one point it was like you were spooning.
Well, when we fell down, I fell on his body. He fell on the ground. And so it was kind of like a spoon on the ground.
Okay, so
Your Honor, the defendant has come into well of the court here.
Why can't we see it to the plaintiff testify?
I think it's fine.
okay. Well, now that Mr. Sanderson is here, and I don't need you to do anything, Terry, but just for comparison's sake, I'm in my heels. We're about the same height, about 5'5" with heels.
It's roughly.
Oh, tell me I'm taller, please. Okay, so we've got Mr. Sanderson that's about 5'5" that comes in back of you, and you said that you felt something huge. What was your word behind you?
Just a big
A big
body body.
A big body. All right. And was it just the front of his body that touched the back of your body?
I couldn't see in the back of my head.
Sure.
But I felt a body press against my back.
But there was no grabbing, like he didn't like grab your waist or grab your arms?
No, not at all. No.
Nothing like that?
Nothing.
Okay. All right. So, skis slide between, you kind of freeze, you end up, maybe your skis kind of cross, you end up going down. Would you agree that Mr. Sanderson fell to the ground and then you fell on top?
I don't know if it was simultaneous. I don't remember.
Okay. But you didn't fall and hit the ground, correct?
I don't remember exactly where I hit.
Okay.
But I fell over.
All right. And
with Mr. Sanderson.
Right. And Mr. Sanderson fell and hit the ground.
Yes.
All right, Greg, what do you got?
Yeah, I'll be short on this one. This is probably my favorite, aside from the sideshow nature of all the, demonstration of the tiered height of the guys and all that. That's just amusing. But watch her, and if Gwyneth Paltrow is watching this, which I doubt, but if you are, I would love to see you in full-blown sarcasm, because I can see it gleaming through right there. When that tone changes and that request for approval goes up in her forehead as she says, I can't see out the back of my head, that's almost a, hey, you dense, boom. But the language, the cadence changes, it slows, she gets deliberate, her brow comes up as if, are you catching on? I can only imagine. And then she does something that we usually associate with people telling the truth. She does kind of a gravity-defying act. She moves up when she's talking about falling down, not to readjust her body, but just kind of bounces up in the chair. We usually associate that with people being truthful. Chase, what do you got?
There's a lot of talk online where she has a reputation for being rude or condescending sometimes to people. And there's people that are talking about this trial where she's kind of being elitist, was a word I saw frequently repeated online. And if this is true, and if the behavior you're seeing is elitist, I personally think she's just pissed off she's getting drug into this entire ordeal. But I just want you to think, a person walking in there and being deceiving and deceptive and selling a narrative would hide that. They would hide that behavior and put something else on for the jury. She's comfortable, smooth, confident, body narration, communicates and conveys. And this just means that the moments, the movements to illustrate everything make logical sense and they convey information. So her movements convey information when she's demonstrating things there. So instead of just random movement, and random movement might be an illustrator, but when it kind of demonstrates a physical aspect of a story, this is what I call narration. When the attorney says, please tell me I'm taller, or something to that effect, this is just a weird, awkward joke. I think this moment represents the whole deposition. You can see it in Gwyneth's face. It's grief. She's embarrassed for this woman. And it's interesting the amount of physical contact and control in the other attorneys that they're exerting over this Terry guy. And I think this can show you who's in charge of this situation. As an example, this is the polar opposite of what you saw in the Johnny Depp legal team. They followed his lead. When he moved, they turned to look. And that's all I got with this one. Mark, what do you got?
Yeah, there's this theme around diminishment and self-diminishment, which is building throughout this. And I think you're right, Chase, that Paltrow there's some grief around seeing a woman diminish herself in that particular position and cast that diminishment on others, building Paltrow up in height and status and everybody else down. Now, there's an ulterior motive to that as well, and I'll talk about that later on. I also think you're right to bring up this idea of her being this elitist idea as well, and I'll talk about that a little bit later on as well, because I think it is important. It's now a complete clown show. The circus has a bunch of clowns. There they are at the back. Ever should it be so that there's a very small one and a very tall one and a bunch in between, one that's slightly more portly, others that are thinner. It's just a perfect comedy setup there. As the lawyer moves back to do a demonstration, she says, you don't need to do anything, Terry. I wonder what she worries Terry was going to do and join in on there. I think she rightly is concerned that Terry is going to bump in behind her and it's going to look a terrible display for the jury, which will do him no good. This is time for everybody to sit down. This is nobody should be up at this point doing anything at all. This is an utter disaster. They've moved themselves, all of themselves, into exposed positions, and they haven't prepared for this at all. So they're each framing each other terribly. They're a terrible projection and frame for each other. And Paltrow is the axis of control in all of this, which she's going to be used to. She's a huge star. She's Steven Spielberg is her godfather. It's like she's very powerful. And so now she's in a position that she is used to, which is being in a situation of power and being the axis at which all the other clowns, all the other acts move around. Perfect for her. Extraordinary to see. Scott, what you got on this one?
All right, Joe, I've covered just about everything from clown show to illustrators. But nobody said duck mouthing. She's still duck mouthing. Everything seems to be smooth. She's talking at her normal cadence. Everything's moving right along. No stress, no deception, no nothing on her part. Excuse me. And we don't see any worry, anything in her facial expressions at all. Nothing. And you're right. That whole circus is getting out of hand over there. All right. That's all I got.
I disagree about it being a clown show because clowns choreograph everything they do.
Right. Yeah. More of a chimp show then.
The eyewitness is you.
I think you said at one point it was like you were spooning.
Well, when we fell down, I fell on his body, he fell on the ground, and so it was kind of like a spoon on the ground.
Okay, so...
Your Honor, the defendant has come into the well of the court here. Why can't you see it to the plane? That's fine.
I think it's fine.
Okay. Well, now that Mr. Sanderson is here, and I don't need you to do anything, Terry, but just for comparison's sake, I'm in my heels. We're about the same height, about 5'5" with heels.
It's roughly.
Oh, tell me I'm taller, please. Okay, so we've got Mr. Sanderson that's about 5'5" that comes in back of you, and you said that you felt something huge. What was your word behind you?
No, just a big body.
A big body. All right. And was it just the front of his body that touched the back of your body?
I couldn't see in the back of my head.
Sure.
But I felt a body press against my back.
But there was no grabbing, like he didn't like grab your waist or grab your
No,
arms?
not at all. No.
Nothing like that?
Nothing.
Okay. All right. So, skis slide between, you kind of freeze, you end up, maybe your skis kind of cross, you end up going down. Would you agree that Mr. Sanderson fell to the ground and then you fell on top?
I don't know if it was simultaneous. I don't remember.
Okay. But you didn't fall and hit the ground, correct?
I don't remember exactly where I hit.
Okay.
But I fell over.
All right. And
with Mr. Sanderson.
Right. And Mr. Sanderson fell and hit the ground.
Yes.
Going back here, you guys are on the ground. Now, you realize, right, you're not saying to the jury that this was in any way, shape, or form a sexual assault.
I am not saying that. Okay. I'm just saying what went through my mind for a split second when it was happening.
All right, great. So you're down on the ground, and then you started yelling at him.
I don't remember if I started yelling at him while I was on the ground. I remember pushing away because I was very upset, and it was still very strange to me what had happened. And I pushed down the hill, and I turned around, and I yelled at him.
Okay. Did you scream before you went down?
I don't think so.
Okay. So if others heard a scream, you wouldn't That wasn't you.
No, I froze. When he slid between my skis, I absolutely froze. And I don't remember yelling or screaming until I was very angry at what had happened.
Okay. And so you guys are on the ground. And then you said to him, I think you don't know if you were up or if you were still on the ground, but he was still on the ground, right?
Yes.
When you said, "What are you doing?"
Yes.
Okay. Like, why did you do that?
Yes.
And he said, "I think you skied into me."
Yes.
And that's when you were furious and said, "You skied directly into my effing back at the
Sorry.
top of your lungs."
Yes, I did.
Okay.
I apologize for my bad language.
And well, in fact, you were.
All right, Chase, what do you got?
Let's just talk about a human, natural, normal human reaction. You do not reactively yell at or scream at a person when it's your fault. And you also don't reactively start apologizing when it's not. Those are interesting. So I thought those are interesting in that they're not here in this clip. But let's just think from a behavioral perspective. We don't default to yelling if we caused something or we participated in something. The attorney's blink rate is extreme here, and it's different because of the shutter speed, the speed of the eyelid we talked about earlier, and the nervousness that's associated with all this behavior. Gwyneth has this one kind of pursed lip behavior we've seen throughout the deposition, the duck lip, duck mouth. This is most often seen with disapproval. And then when they bring up the F word here, when somebody pulls their lips back like this unconsciously, back horizontally, like the lips retract back towards the ears, it's part of the facial expression of fear. When it's a conscious choice, it's almost always because of what I call a social error or the admission of a social error, which we're seeing here, according to me. And I think her eyebrows are raised to make a point. And typically when somebody's raising their eyebrows like this and talking, it typically indicates sincerity and directness or a desire to communicate the gravity or the seriousness of something. That's all I got here. Scott, what do you got?
All right. I think this is a fantastic example of something what I always bring up, and people always, because people get this wrong. It's the head nod yes being used as what I refer to as a confirmation nod. Because when she's saying yes, or when she's saying something, it's not no, but it's not, or something like that, something against yes, then she's shaking her head no while she's saying yes. And then it's the opposite of when you shake your head yes as you're saying no is the opposite. It confuses me. Dyslexia, Mark, me and you. But anyway, in this case, when she's hitting her, she's nodding yes, those are confirmation nods. That's like, yes, but she's saying no. She's confirming what she's saying at that point. It's emphasizing the specific word not, because other than that, her head's going everywhere because she says not, and it's down on not. So it sounds confusing, and it is confusing, but you do see that head nod yes when someone's not being honest and they're saying no. You'll see it move just a little bit. It's no, I didn't do that. Not no, I didn't do that. It's no, I didn't do that. Then it'll keep nodding, not on the words. That's when your head is being used as an illustrator. So her brain is emphasizing that specific word, not in that situation. All right, Mark, what do you got?
Yeah, so the attorney offers Paltrow the idea of, this. Did you think this is an assault, or was it an assault? She doesn't take that offer. Now, if somebody were creating a story, you would expect them to take that kind of escalated offer, because why not? If somebody's proffering forward that it could be assault, why not go with that? At least to distract, at least to, drop some chaff and redirect. She doesn't take that at all. Again, suggests to me that she doesn't need to, because the truth for her is enough. What actually happened in her mind is truth enough and is big enough in her mind. Again, she names the emotion, very angry. Often when people are being deceptive, they won't name the emotion because there wasn't the right emotion or any emotion there, because the event didn't happen. When the event has happened, the emotion is real and they're able to pinpoint it and name the emotion, and they're happy to say the emotion out loud. She says it, very angry. She also says she froze. She then moved away, and then she got angry. That is the perfect freeze, flight, and then fight. It's the right order for things. First of all, you freeze. It's the cheapest way to get out of trouble, is to not move at all. Predator moves on by. If the predator doesn't move on by, then you do flight. You get out the way. Again, much cheaper than fighting. Then at the end, if the predator's still there, if the damage, the thing that perpetrated the damage is still there, at that point you get angry. Anger can escalate. It's a lot more expensive to get angry. That comes last of all. So all seems absolutely credible and honest to me. Greg, what do you got on this one?
Yeah, a handful of things. One is her hands are expanded. All of her fingers are separated when she's telling this story, and she's illustrating with her hands to make the point. Everything flows nicely. A couple of other things. I've interrogated a few people in my life, and one thing that I have noticed, when I'm asking you a question that is a leading question and you've done something, you're going to say yes or no and stop right there. Unless you're the kind of guy who just is a prolific bullshitter and you just roll out a lot of chaff and redirect, at which point you will not be concise in your response. You'll say, and then I was rolling down the hill and I saw a green tree off to the side that was greener than any other tree. And I looked and there was a little red bird. You don't tell the details that support your story. You tell something that allows you to elaborate and gives you time. She doesn't do that. In fact, one of the more interesting things is the woman asked her a leading question. And when I say a leading question, I mean a question: have, will, did, are, can. Anything that starts with that and ends with you saying yes or no. She doesn't. She tries to narrate. And when she tries to narrate, this woman is dense. She cuts her off. She still goes back and does it again. She does again ask another leading question. Did you scream? She goes down the path and says, no, here's what happened. And she's illustrating with her whole body and saying that. And I call it the eek face that you talked about, Chase. There's an emoji for it for a reason. It's part of who we are. It's Wallace and Gromit thing. Pull the teeth back, show those teeth, and raise the brow, because if you raise the brow and do the teeth, you're asking for a response from the person, as opposed to just showing your teeth, which could be anger, could be a little bit of everything else. This is holistically more truthful from her than the person who's talking to her. You can tell the other person's hedging to protect, and she's not. It looks truthful to me.
The eyewitness is you.
Going back here, you guys are on the ground. Now, you realize, right, you're not saying to the jury that this was in any way, shape, or form a sexual assault.
I am not saying that. Okay. I'm just saying what went through my mind for a split second when it was happening.
All right, great. So you're down on the ground, and then you started yelling at him.
I don't remember if I started yelling at him while I was on the ground. I remember pushing away because I was very upset, and it was still very strange to me what had happened. And I pushed down the hill, and I turned around and I yelled at him.
Okay. Did you scream before you went down?
I don't think so.
Okay. So if others heard a scream, you wouldn't, that wasn't you?
No, I froze. When he slid between my skis, I absolutely froze. And I don't remember yelling or screaming until I was very angry at what had happened.
Okay. And so you guys are on the ground, and then you said to him, I think you don't know if you were up or if you were still on the ground, but he was still on the ground, right?
Yes.
When you said, what are you doing?
Yes.
Okay. Like, why did you do that?
Yes.
And he said, I think you skied into me.
Yes.
And that's when you were furious and said, you skied directly into my effing back at the top of your lungs.
Yes, I did.
Okay.
I apologize for my bad language.
And well, in fact, you were screaming that so hard you were worried that Moses was hearing you.
Yes.
Okay. And after you were screaming to him, isn't that when Mr. Sanderson said, I'm sorry, I'm sorry?
I said, you skied directly into my effing back. And he said, oh, sorry, I'm sorry.
Right. And that was you screaming at him while he's on the ground still, right?
I was yelling at him.
Pretty loud, pretty forceful.
I was pretty upset.
Right? You're small but mighty. Actually, you're not that small. So when he said, I'm sorry, would you agree that he kind of mumbled it?
Yes.
Okay. All right.
All right, Mark, what do you got?
Yeah. Okay. So here's Chase. Here's where I think Paltrow is getting very angry at the diminutive ideas that are going on. Small but mighty. You're small but mighty.
Yeah.
And then she actually says, I think, oh, actually, you're not actually that small. Anyway, we get eyes narrowing. We get the top lip tightening on that. She tries to, that's anger. Okay. Eyes narrow to target, top lip. I'm not quite sure. I'm not sure anybody's quite sure why the top lip tightens on anger. It may be because it has to in order to show the bottom teeth. Maybe some people think it's to protect the teeth. But it does. The top lip tightens. So there's anger there. She then covers the anger with a little bit of a laugh, but it's not a big out loud laugh. It's there to kind of redirect from this anger that's going on. And then this all increases on the redirect there of, no, actually, you're not that small. Now, again, all of this imagery is trying to build up to the plaintiff being small and Paltrow being big. One being small and therefore victim, and the other big and therefore powerful. And this we're going to see increase. And I think this is for the jury. This is for the jury to believe that this, little elven man, is the victim, and, this big, golden-haired giant should have gold taken from her and delivered to the little elven man because he's so small and aren't we all so small? Paltrow is tall though. I mean, she says she's 5'10". I'm 5'10" and a half, and I'm taller than most people on the planet. I'm only 5'10" and a half. I'm taller than most people on the planet. She's tall. In heels, she's going to be tall. I don't know how small little elven man is, but yeah, she's trying to create that contrast there of the big Hollywood giant and the poor little optometrist, a elven man in the snow. Lovely idea. Scott, what do you got on this one?
All right. So when the attorney starts describing the screaming, that's when we see Gwyneth's lips, they purse a little bit. And just before it cuts back to the attorney. And then those little smiles in there that we're seeing lets us know she's a little bit embarrassed about what's coming up. It's a little bit rough. And then again, she cuts loose with that rehearsed smile when the attorney talks to her about being, her small but mighty. She's small but mighty. And I think what's happened here is at the end of this, when she says, well, you're not that, what'd she say? You're not that small. Yeah. I bet she lays in bed to this day at nighttime thinking about that. Or it just happened recently. So I bet tonight she's laying up there going, oh my God, I shouldn't have said that. Because she wants to be friends with her so bad she can't hardly stand it. But I bet that just bothers her. It's one of those things that loops and goes over and over. I shouldn't have said that because she's going to think I meant this. And let me go watch it and see what she looks like. I bet she's doing that. We've all got a bunch of those. I know I do. Chase, what do you got?
Let's, I'm going to give a different perspective here. At the small and mighty joke, you'll see Gwyneth's face go immediately to what looks kind of like confusion. And I think it goes to anger briefly, and I think it fades into something else. It looks almost like confusion, embarrassment, and maybe contempt mixed in there. This is because those are the three elements of what the word cringe actually means. It's a combination of confusion, embarrassment for the person, and a small hint of contempt at the end of that. That's all I got. Greg?
Yeah, hang in there, guys, because you're going to see smugness on the part of Gwyneth Paltrow in a way I've rarely seen before this is over. And I think here's the switch. Here's where it starts to change. Here we see when the attorney's saying you were screaming so loud, there's a break in her baseline we don't see any other time. Her eyes open wide and there's a slight smile. I think she's a little amused that this attorney is going this way and doing this. She's buying into her story. I mean, she's almost feeding this story for her. I think, Mark, if she's trying to make it feel like there's this giant person, I think she's not good at it, like everything else they've done to now. There's also a different tone of voice when she responds to her. And she illustrates with her eyes when she's saying, I was pretty angry. And then I see exactly what you guys see. All that goes away, and there's that little quick movement in her face that may be contempt, maybe cringe, whatever it is that's moving through there at small but mighty. I think here's the switch where she's starting to think, okay, I thought she had something up her sleeve, but I don't think she does. I think she's starting to see her differently than she saw when she first sat down. And we'll see a relaxed, a little bit different person as we move into the next elements of this, including when there's a little sparring between the attorneys, and we'll see the smugness. So hang in there with us. This is a good one.
The eyewitness is you.
In fact, you were screaming that so hard, you were worried that Moses was hearing you.
Yes.
Okay. And after you were screaming to him, isn't that when Mr. Sanderson said, I'm sorry, I'm sorry?
He said, I said, you skied directly into my effing back. And he said, oh, sorry, I'm sorry.
Right. And that was you screaming at him while he's on the ground still. Right?
I was yelling at him.
Pretty loud. Pretty forceful.
I was pretty upset.
Right? You're small but mighty. Actually, you're not that small. So when he said, I'm sorry, would you agree that he kind of mumbled it?
Yes.
Okay. All right. You remember Eric came over, Eric Christensen?
Yes.
Who was Moses's instructor?
Correct.
Okay. And that was when you were concerned that, oh gosh, Moses is close by. He's hearing me yell obscenities at this man.
Which is not my custom.
Right, and I think you said that. And at some point, the man stood up, and we were all sort of talking.
Yes.
What conversation did you have with Mr. Sanderson standing up?
I wasn't having a conversation with him. Eric was helping him up and asking if he was okay.
Okay. Eric eventually yanked him up, right? He pulled him up.
He helped him up.
Okay, he didn't get up on his own accord.
He helped him.
And were you still standing right there when he helped him?
I believe I was, yes.
You sure you hadn't skied down a little bit?
I might have skied down a little bit. My son was down a little bit, and my now husband came over at some point.
Okay.
So I remember moving away from Mr. Sanderson after he collided into me and we hit the ground.
Okay. And do you remember, we heard from Craig Ramone, he was the first individual who testified. Do you remember him coming to the scene?
I do not.
You don't remember him at all?
No.
You don't remember him being there or asking you, are you okay?
I do not.
Okay. You don't remember him asking Terry if he was okay?
I don't recall.
Okay.
All right, Mark, what do you got?
Yeah. So there is some issue here with this witness. Can't work out what the first name is, but the surname there is Ramone. It might be Craig or Craig. I'm not quite sure what she's saying, because I see a succession here of 6 changes that I'm counting. 6 changes in her baseline. Go back, take a look, see if you can pick up 6 changes or more that happen around when Paltrow says, I do not. She has a big problem with this witness. We'll find out in a moment exactly what problem she has, but that jumped out at me the first time I saw this. Big change in baseline, 6 subtle changes. Go back, take a look. Greg, what do you got on this one?
Yeah, this is interesting because we get what I would think is her normal face when she's not contained, because using her brow to illustrate when she's saying he was asking if he was okay. See, her face is moving more than normal. I think that's probably her normal when she's talking to friends, not in front of a camera, doing that kind of thing. But remember, even actors are going to be on their best behavior possible when they are in front of a court, unless you're Amber Heard, who just did whatever the hell she felt like. But now you watch this other woman, watch this attorney. She's animated as she can possibly be. That forehead's all the way back up, trying to get her approval. I think she thinks she has Gwyneth Paltrow on the ropes. But Paltrow, again, has fingers extended. Remember, we baselined her eye movement for visual memory and said she was going slightly up and to her left here when she was recalling her son on the slopes as she was describing the situation in a narrative. She goes back to that same baseline as she's illustrating with her hands what happens. Her punctuation, her accessing, her words, all that stuff is together. And then they bring up Ramon, and we see that condemning smile, that contempt, that half smile, and even full disdain when she's asked about whether she remembers him being there or not. So I think, yeah, we got a lot coming on this one, Mark. Scott, what do you got?
All right. I think this is interesting because her voice is in vocal fry. This is the first time we've heard this, Gwyneth's voice. And she's only illustrating with that right hand now. So that, I think she remembers part of it really well. And the other part, she's not really sure about at this point, because she's not like Mark was saying earlier, you've got both sides looking the same, man, that everything, you're straight on and going good. But at this point, we haven't seen this much from her. We have a couple of times. But the additive to this is the little shoulder shrugs we're seeing every couple of seconds. So that suggests that I think she's sure about part of it and not sure about the other part. They've got a lot going on with that duck mouth there as well. And again, her mouth doesn't stay engaged when she's thinking. So it's a little bit more predominant here because she's thinking a lot going on. So she's trying to duck mouth while she's trying to think at the same time. And they both just don't happen in sync. It doesn't sync very well. I'm not seeing any deception here. I don't see any cues of deception. A lot of times people say, oh, we saw one shoulder shrug, a single shoulder shrug. So that means that they're lying. That's an absolute. There are no absolutes. And they'll see a really quick double shoulder shrug and they'll say the same thing. That just suggests or it indicates that that person isn't sure about that answer. They're not positive about what they're saying. I think that's what we're seeing here at this point. I think she's just unsure about the specifics that she's seeing or that she's talking about as she goes through here. And Mark, I'm catching myself do the double thing. I'm always doing this or this. I think I'm gonna follow your advice and go right down that road. All right, Greg, Chase, what do you got?
Yeah, let's real quick. I want to touch on the word yanked. And she just tries to hammer this word in there. Words actually do make a giant difference. It's been proven a ton in and out of court that changing only a few words can change the way that somebody pictures and imagines a scene. Like when somebody, in one of the experiments, they said a car smashed into someone instead of hit someone, which changed the people's recollection. And when Craig Ramon, I think it's Craig, comes up, this is an instant, genuine emotional reaction in Gwyneth. Instant, genuine emotional reaction, followed by this shift in baseline. These questions are the only one that cause a slight deviation in baseline here, maybe not slight. She's lip licking. You can see lip retraction. Non-contractions are one of the things. I'm just listing the things that Mark hasn't listed and you guys haven't. And she says, I do not instead of don't for a few of those. Might not be a giant cluster for deception, but there is definitely some stress here with these questions for sure. And there's something about this issue here. We're not mind readers like Greg reminds you all the time. We're not sure what it is, but there's definitely, this is the highest stress point we've seen so far.
The eyewitness is you.
You remember Eric came over, Eric Christensen.
Yes.
Who was Moses's instructor.
Correct.
Okay. And that was when you were concerned that, oh gosh, Moses is close by. He's hearing me yell obscenities at this man.
Which is not my custom.
Right. And I think you said that. And at some point, the man stood up and we were all sort of talking.
Yes.
What conversation did you have with Mr. Sanderson standing up?
I wasn't having a conversation with him. Eric was helping him up and asking if he was okay.
Okay. Eric eventually yanked him up, right? He pulled him up.
He helped him up.
Okay. He didn't get up on his own accord.
He helped him.
And were you still standing right there when he helped him?
I believe I was, yes.
You sure you hadn't skied down a little bit?
I might have skied down a little bit. My son was down a little bit, and my now husband came over at some point.
Okay.
I remember moving away from Mr. Sanderson after he collided into me and we hit the ground.
Okay. And do you remember, we heard from Craig Ramon, he was the first individual who testified. Do you remember him coming to the scene?
I do not.
You don't remember him at all?
No.
You don't remember him being there or asking you, are you okay?
I do not.
Okay. You don't remember him asking Terry if he was okay?
I don't recall.
Okay. All right. And then I think what you've said is Eric told you, I'm going to handle this. And that's what I think you've said people do. They handle things for you.
I don't believe I said that.
You've never said that?
I believe what I said was in the acting world, that's a world of representatives. So you have an agent who represents you. And so if they say, you know, I'm going to provide information, you allow somebody to represent you. So when Eric, as an accredited Deer Valley ski instructor, said to me, I'll fill out the paperwork, he knew also that my daughter was at the bottom waiting for me to come for lunch or at the lunch place.
And so Mr. Christensen handled it for you?
Mr. Christensen stayed and filled out the report, made sure Mr. Sanderson was okay, and said to me, you can go ahead.
Okay. How do you know that if you weren't there?
Because he told me.
Okay. That's what he told you?
Yes.
But you weren't there to see it?
He told you you can leave. He wasn't there. Objective form. I don't understand the question.
Sustained. Go ahead with your questions.
You weren't there when the paperwork or the exchange of information was given, fair?
Fair.
All right. And would you agree that Mr. Christensen did not see the incident, didn't see the collision?
Correct.
Okay.
He just saw us right afterwards.
Right. And in fact, nobody from Deer Valley saw the collision.
Correct.
Your kids.
All right, Greg, what do you got?
Yeah, pretty quickly. This is a baseline for her talking about something normal, nothing to do with the actual facts of the case. She's just talking about what's normal in her life. So I think you can get a pretty good baseline for how she's talking when she's explaining things. However, this attorney is not good at doing any questioning. She's not asking her to do anything of value. She's doing regurgitating bits of information just to be corroborated by the witness. That's all she'll do is, and did this happen? Yes. And then after that, did this happen? But what about what happened? Then you get storylines that you can deconflict or conflict against each other. And I think, Chase, in that last one where you were saying, look, I think we're seeing a lot of red flags. I agree. And I think those red flags may be related to the fact that she doesn't remember that guy being there or coming up. And so now what's he going to say? And we've talked about this today, but your little brain, our brain has two very important functions. The one that is us on our daily lives, and we go on about our business and think and go about, human things. And then there's the part that when that kicks in gear, when your limbic thought system comes in place, it prioritizes targets. Scott talked about it earlier. It's going to remember the most dangerous thing, the next most dangerous thing, the next. And they will not be necessarily in order because of the way our brain works on things. So all these things that we told you throughout this video, if a thing is a lurking monster behind the rock, well, then our limbic brain is still going to feel that and bring up all those red flags. Doesn't mean we're lying, it means that we're feeling something. She goes back to full body narration and complete sentences. As she explains this thought, she has no reason to make up and nothing to hide. And that's what she's done to now, which makes us think, okay, that's a good indicator she's being rational and truthful. Scott, what do you got?
I think Gwyneth did a great job with this because the attorney's trying to get her all flustered and look like she's too good to stick around and make sure everything's okay. She has somebody handle it for her, but she very clearly spells out what happened. So I thought that was brilliant. I don't know if they saw that coming or what. Maybe they did, but I think that was great. I think she handled that very well because it made it so she didn't sound like she was some snooto, stuck up goop at that point. She just sounded like, here's the way, this is the way this happens in a situation like that. In my case, in other words, and Gwyneth stays on point and she's really relaxed. And again, we're seeing the same stuff. Her blink rate is through the roof, and she's really trying hard to come to stay on with that duck mouth. And we're not seeing much outside of that. A little bit of concern in the brow, but not much outside of that. Nothing deceptive. Nothing that makes me go, oh. Something's up here. I haven't seen any of that so far. Mark, what do you got?
Yeah, I think the lawyer's in real trouble now. To my understanding, having seen it all, Ramon is an ace card because Ramon is the only witness. Other than he said, she said, there's only Ramon who says he was there at the moment of collision and witnessed the collision, the only witness of the collision. And she brought up Ramon. Paltrow had a palpable, a very clear response to that, which we'll see that later on as well. Huge change in baseline. But the lawyer continues with, and then adapts on the mic. That suggests to me that whole Ramon moment didn't go as well as she was hoping. She's destabilized by it. She's not in control of this at all. The litigator here, I would say, is under a lot of pressure, not doing well, and I think she knows it at this point. Chase, what do you got on this one?
I love how much composure Gwyneth has while this person is just so overtly passive aggressively trying to just reword and reimagine all of her words. And everything is on point with behavior. The head nodding is perfectly timed. You hear, if you're a subscriber, you hear Scott talk about this regularly. The attorneys of this guy are both aggressively taking notes in the background.
I noticed that too. Yeah, man.
And I think this is an old lawyer trick. When the deposition isn't going well, you look away so that the jury sees it as less credible. They don't want to lend credibility to it or offer it any kind of power. And that's all I got here.
Oh man, yeah, I'd forgotten about that. But yeah, they're back there leaning into it, man.
Oh man,
The eyewitness is you.
All right. And then I think what you've said is Eric told you, I'm going to handle this. And that's what I think you've said people do. They handle things for you.
I don't believe I said that.
You've never said that?
I believe what I said was, in the acting world, that's a world of representatives. So you have an agent who represents you. And so if they say, you know, I'm going to provide information, you allow somebody to represent you. So when Eric, as an accredited Deer Valley ski instructor, said to me, I'll fill out the paperwork, he knew also that my daughter was at the bottom waiting for me to come for lunch or at the lunch place.
And so Mr. Christensen handled it for you?
Mr. Christensen stayed and filled out the report, made sure Mr. Sanderson was okay, and said to me, you can go ahead.
Okay. How do you know that if you weren't there?
Because he told me.
Okay. That's what he told you?
Yes.
But you weren't there to see it?
He told you you can leave. He wasn't there. Objective form. I don't understand the question.
Sustained. Go ahead with your questions.
You weren't there when the paperwork or the exchange of information was given, fair?
Fair.
All right. And would you agree that Mr. Christensen did not see the incident, didn't see the collision?
Correct.
Okay.
He just saw us right afterwards.
Right. And in fact, nobody from Deer Valley saw the collision.
Correct.
Your kids, the only person that, and you may not be aware of this, the only person who says that they saw the collision was Mr. Ramon.
Yes.
Okay. The way you answer that makes me think that you don't believe that he saw it.
I did not believe his testimony.
Do you believe that he saw the collision?
No. I don't believe that he saw what he thinks he saw.
Ms. Paltrow, why would he lie?
This is a man.
Goes to motive, Your Honor. But perhaps that's not the right objection under the rules, so let me be quiet and withdraw my objection.
Can you answer it?
He said he was at 40 feet away and colorblind. I don't know how he can be positive about what he saw, especially with how much he changed his story.
Well, what does colorblind have to do with anything? My husband's colorblind. We tease him all the time that he can't tell red or green. But what does that have to do with not seeing who hit who?
Well, if you have two people in ski gear with helmets on and you're 40 plus feet away, I'm not sure how you can discern who is who.
Okay, well...
And I can tell you that he didn't, because Mr. Sanderson categorically hit me on that ski slope, and that is the truth.
And I'm sure that that's what you believe. I'm not saying...
Because it's the truth.
I'm not saying that.
Let's get a question.
So you and Mr. Sanderson, if you're almost 5'10", Terry's 5-5 pushing it.
Your Honor, that's facts not in evidence.
Counsel, you'll have an opportunity to redirect or to direct examine, so go ahead.
If
counsel.
you two stood next to each other, do you think that somebody would confuse the two of you?
I don't know. I'm telling you what happened.
Okay. All right.
Well, I hope this lawyer isn't too expensive because I mean, it's terrible. So here's the Ramon stuff, and the prosecution creates the argument for Paltrow, starts off the argument, creates the circumstance for her, even brings in a personal idea about her husband being colorblind, and they make fun of him. Poor guy. I mean, it's not his fault. I mean, anyway. She's utterly obsessed with this diminutive height thing. Is Terry's 5'5" pushing it? It's like, I'm paying you to defend me, and you're just insulting me at the same time. And I'm going to end up paying for her lawyers as well. I mean, what a disaster. So it is, yeah, it's got everything that the circus has. You know, it's got little, small people, involved. It's got everything. And the lawyer, the prosecution knows that it's going badly because we see internal mouth groom at the end of the whole thing. Yep. She knows this is not going well, and she just set up a beautiful argument for Paltrow because, yes, if you're colorblind at 40 feet, how can you tell actually anybody's height and who's who? It's going to be at a moment of collision if you were there. It's a very, very strong argument that Paltrow just made to the jury and was set up by the prosecution. Scott, what do you got on this one?
I agree with you. It seems every turn she's leading her right down a road where she'll just end up going, this guy hit me. This guy ran into me. That's what she can't get past it. But at the very beginning of this, pay attention, because before that attorney starts talking, she says, the only person that, and then right there, that attorney whispers something. She starts to say something and she goes like that. And then she goes on to say, you may not be aware of this. And she may have repeated it, may have said, you may not be aware. And then said that. I don't know why. It could have been rehearsed. So she was trying, she may be really stressed and that's what happened. But I just thought that was really odd. I couldn't make out exactly what she was saying, but listen for that whisper there the next time through. And then when Gwyneth talks, we see quite a few more of those shoulder shrugs. And that lets us know, again, she's not totally confident with what she's saying. And it doesn't mean she's being deceptive or lying or anything. It just lets us know she's not completely confident with what she's saying. Or that she's unsure about what she's saying. And then she broke out of her baseline at this point because she speeds up and slows down her cadence. When she's talking, she speeds up and slows down. And then her sentences are broken. Quite often when I talk, my sentences are broken up and you can hardly understand what I'm talking about. But hers are, in this situation, are really broken up a lot. So that's really out of her baseline as well. It hasn't been so smooth she can lope yet, and it's just like she's crash landing at this point. Not crash landing, but she's kind of bouncing, kind of crashing. And we haven't seen much of that up till now at all. I guess that's all I got on this one. Greg, what do you got?
Yeah, I think what you're seeing is a turn. And you said a turn. This is a perfect turn. If Gwyneth Paltrow had any apprehension about the opposing attorneys before now, it's gone. That's what I think we're seeing. I think we see now she's not as guarded. She's going to start talking. If you really, I love this throwaway. I said she throws away. You may not be aware. You may not be aware. And her body language looks like she's lost confidence. She's got that single hand up. It looks like she has no idea why she went down that road, but now she's got to say it. And my favorite part of this entire thing is when Gwyneth Paltrow's attorney steps in and goes, objection, well, never mind. Watch her face. If you want the perfect body language of smug, it's there. She turns to face and she's in profile. 46 seconds. If you go look at it and stop right there, there's a dampening of the smile. A full smile looks arrogant. So when people are smug, they dampen the smile. They do that little smile. Their eyes narrow. Her face is thrust forward. Her chin is thrust forward and up. Those are not usually things that we see. When you're doing that and you got all the amusement, but you've dampened that move, that's smugness. And we've talked about it a lot. Chase, you'll do it when they're closing their eyes and doing it. But if you lock your eyes on a person doing that, it's pity. It's pity. If you do it, otherwise it's smug. But if I'm smug and look at you, now I'm showing you pity. I think we're a step away from pity. And like I said early, that's good unless someone sitting in the gallery, someone sitting in that jury is offended by that. So she has to be careful with that because she's already this person who's above their status probably. So you have to be really careful. And you have to be paying attention to really see it in this case because it moves so quickly. But then once she turns her face back to her eyes are not necessarily locked until now. Now it carries over into her treatment at attorney. Her tone goes from this questioning in the past to telling. Her chin is now up in defiance. I think she has no fear of this attorney at all now. And then this degrades to an argument. This reminded me of the interrogation of the suitcase chick. Remember, we know you did it. Yet I didn't know you did. Yet that's what this starts to sound like. It sounds like this attorney's just going to throw things and hope they stick. And then the interesting piece is Gwyneth Paltrow just sticks to the facts. And at the end, you can see amusement. And I always say amusement is a smile from here up, or you contain the smile from here down. I think that's probably part of the reason she holds that contained duck mouth thing you're talking about all the time, Scott. Chase, what do you
got? I agree, first of all. But let's talk about liars. Liars have a very, very hard time calling other people liars. This is exponentially more true on the witness stand in the courtroom. Liars are going to find ways to cast doubt on somebody or poke holes in a story. They don't want the full attention that comes with calling somebody else a liar. And this is further proven with what I think is the most powerful statement of all in the entire depo. She says his story cannot be true, and her reason is that it didn't happen. Not that there are holes in the story, just that she knows he's lying because she experienced it. That is powerful. This alone is so powerful. I think people who are being deceptive do not act this way. And the times that she did cast doubt and kind of do that thing is when she's being asked to do so directly by the attorney. And even then continues to redirect it back to the fact that it's untrue categorically because she experienced it. That's a big deal. Huge deal.
The eyewitness is you.
The only person that, and you may not be aware of this, the only person who says that they saw the collision was Mr. Ramon.
Yes.
Okay. The way you answer that makes me think that you don't believe that he saw it.
I did not believe his testimony.
Do you believe that he saw the collision?
No. I don't believe that he saw what he thinks he saw.
Ms. Paltrow, why would he lie?
This is a man...
Goes to motive, Your Honor. But, perhaps that's not the right objection under the rules, so let me be quiet and withdraw my objection.
Can you answer it?
He said he was at 40 feet away and colorblind. I don't know how he can be positive about what he saw, especially with how much he changed his story.
Well, what does colorblind have to do with anything? My husband's colorblind. We tease him all the time that he can't tell red or green. But what does that have to do with not seeing who hit who?
Well, if you have two people in ski gear with helmets on and you're 40 plus feet away, I'm not sure how you can discern who is who.
Okay, well...
And I can tell you that he didn't, because Mr. Sanderson categorically hit me on that ski slope, and that is the truth.
And I'm sure that that's what you believe. I'm not saying
because
that,
it's the truth.
I'm not saying that.
Let's get a question.
So you and Mr. Sanderson, if you're almost 5'10", Terry's 5'5", pushing it.
Your Honor, that's facts not in evidence.
Counsel, you'll have an opportunity to redirect or to direct examine, so go ahead.
If you two stood next to each other, do you think that somebody would confuse the two of you?
I don't know. I'm telling you what happened.
Okay. All right. You learned that Mr. Sanderson broke 4 ribs.
Yes.
Okay. And that he sustained a concussion.
Correct.
Okay. That he was taken down on toboggan.
Yes.
Did you learn of that day?
No.
Did you inquire?
What is your name again? Sorry. Kristen?
Yes.
Sorry, I was going to say, Kristen,
It's all right.
I think you have to keep in mind when you're the victim of a crash, right, your psychology is not necessarily thinking about the person who perpetrated it.
So the answer to my question is no, you did not inquire.
I did not.
Okay. Did you ever ask, hey, how was that guy that ran into the back of me? Is he okay? Did you ever ask anybody from Deer Valley about that?
I did not, because at the time I did not know that he had sustained injuries like that. I thought it was very minor on the day.
And you didn't stick around long enough to find that out.
I stuck around long enough for him to say he was okay, to stand up, that he told Mr. Christensen he was okay.
And when he was helped up by Mr. Christensen, again, you weren't right there. You were down a ways.
Just a few feet down, yes.
Could you tell if Mr. Sanderson was still dazed or unsteady on his feet?
I could not. I don't know.
Okay. And again, you didn't leave your name, address, contact information. You didn't fill out any paperwork in connection with this accident.
Eric did on my behalf.
Right, but I'm asking about you personally.
Well, it has been asked and answered.
Sustained.
Okay. After.
All right, Chase, what do you got?
So now it's character assassination time. The attorney is losing ground big time, so she moves to this, I think. And I actually love how Gwyneth uses her name and is so comfortable with asking for her name on the stand here, which you don't see in many people. And you won't see this very often. When somebody is this comfortable and composed on the stand, that means, in my book, they're probably just comfortable with the truth coming out. And when somebody's comfortable with the truth, it's a very hard battle to make them look bad on the stand. And I think that's what we're seeing here. Even if it's not 100% truth, when we got maybe 99% truth here, still very comfortable with that. Greg, what do you got?
Yeah, I'm really short on this one. Here's her baseline again. To point to your truthfulness, everything is aligned. She's describing the victim of a crash. Her tone changes, her movement and eye contact are all identical to everything we've seen when she's telling truth, when she's talking about how Hollywood is different. Those are good baselines, and that's what we're seeing. Mark, what do you got?
Yeah, look, if there's any point where I would say she's performing more, she's acting more, she's selling the idea more, it's here. Right here, we see her vocal fry go right up. Scott's been saying before that there have been some times where there's been vocal fry. This, for me, is where the biggest vocal fry is. When she's saying, when you are a victim of a crash, you are not thinking of the person who perpetrated it. She leans into the mic, she increases her vocal fry, and she says that very, very clearly. Now, why might she increase the vocal fry? She would know consciously or unconsciously that it puts a very heavy frame around that phrase. It exaggerates that phrase. It causes people to listen. Why does vocal fry do that? That vocal fry, that kind of grating in the throat, is what both males and females do when there's fear. If you scream in fear, you will get that vocal fry right down the bottom. So therefore, if you put vocal fry in, it causes people to go, "Oh, what's happening? What's being said? There must be something important going on." So she frames it with importance, I think, on purpose. Does that mean she doesn't mean it? I think in this case, she absolutely means this. She wants people to hear this. She is. She's very bold about this statement. Chase, what do you got on this one?
Scott, what do you got?
Thank you.
Okay. It's been a long day. So my favorite part was this condescending thing where she asked her name, because that attorney's been sitting there. She thinks she's building this rapport with her and getting to know her. And at least she remembers my name is what she's thinking, because she's in front of her for a couple of hours just wailing on her, but she's still trying to be nice to her. And it just obviously it didn't take, because she says, "What was your name again?" It's close to "Sweetheart. What's your name again, sweetheart?" It's like that. It's so condescending. And I'm sure maybe it wasn't condescending, but it sure came off good. And then, but Gwyneth's answers were full, and they're not choppy at all. All that's gone away, and I think this went really well for her because they're fluid and just kind of almost they're getting close to eloping at this point, and she's totally calm while this attorney tries to put holes in her story and make things look bad for her. So, but man, that's what a sting that is to have that happen after she's been telling her how good she looks and talking about her shoes and stuff. Oof.
The eyewitness is you.
You learned that Mr. Sanderson broke 4 ribs.
Yes.
Okay. And that he sustained a concussion.
Correct.
Okay. That he was taken down on toboggan.
Yes.
Did you learn of that day?
No.
Did you inquire?
What is your name again? Sorry. Kristen?
Yes.
Sorry, I was going to say Kristen.
It's all right.
I think you have to keep in mind when you're the victim of a crash, right, your psychology is not necessarily thinking about the person who perpetrated it.
Okay. So the answer to my question is no, you did not inquire.
I did not.
Okay. Did you ever ask, hey, how was that guy that ran into the back of me? Is he okay? Did you ever ask anybody from Deer Valley about that?
I did not, because at the time I did not know that he had sustained injuries like that. I thought it was very minor on the day.
And you didn't stick around long enough to find that out.
I stuck around long enough for him to say he was okay, to stand up, that he told Mr. Christensen he was okay.
And when he was helped up by Mr. Christensen, again, you weren't right there. You were down a ways.
Just a few feet down, yes.
Okay. Could you tell if Mr. Sanderson was still dazed or unsteady on his feet?
I could not. I don't know.
Okay. And again, you didn't leave your name, address, contact information. You didn't fill out any paperwork in connection with this accident.
Eric did on my behalf.
Right, but I'm asking about you personally.
Well, it has been asked and answered.
Sustained.
Okay. After the incident, you skied down, went to lunch, and then my understanding is you got a massage.
So after the accident, I met all the rest of the kids at lunch. We all gathered, we had lunch, and I still felt very shaky, and my knee was bothering me, my back was bothering me, so I decided to go in early and get a massage.
Okay. You never did seek any kind of medical treatment for your knee or your back?
No.
Okay. Now, at the scene, before you skied down and had lunch, there was no indication that Mr. Sanderson knew who you were. Is that fair?
I don't know.
Okay. I think, well, you testified there was no indication of that. You were wearing goggles, a helmet?
Yes.
Okay, kind of looked like everybody else on the slope?
That's always my intention.
Okay. Probably had a better ski outfit, though, I bet.
I still have the same one. I just have one.
Okay. So nobody on the hill would be able to recognize you. Is that fair? Maybe your family and friends.
I have been recognized on ski slopes before.
Okay. Do you recall testifying in your deposition that no one on the hill would be able to recognize me?
That would be the idea.
Okay.
But sometimes paparazzi has a way of figuring it out, is my point.
Okay. So your
but you know what? Her mother was in a Columbo episode. You know which one?
I love her mother. Great actor.
It's the one where I can't remember the name of it. Where the conductor, the one with the conductor.
No, that's a good
She's
one.
his husband. She's his wife in that one. Her mother.
I always liked her
telling
mom.
you, right?
Yeah.
So anyway, how's that ear, Mark? Is it itching?
Good. I'm just checking it's still there.
In the South, we use a key. All right, Greg, what do you got?
Hold on. Yeah, so here's an interesting one because we see a shift in baseline because she's asked a question that's kind of non-pertinent. What'd you do after that? You went to to have a massage, and she starts to talk about her kids, and you hear her cadence slow as she thinks about what she's going to say and she's talking through it. We often will associate, if a person is making up details, they'll change cadence. But also, if you haven't thought about this and you're prepared for every other question, you're not, you may slow down and change your cadence. There's not a lot of hemming and hawing. There's just a simple slowing down. But her body narration is still going. Chase, to steal your word, her ability to illustrate with her whole body is there. And people may say that she is adapting because I see her moving, but that's her touching the parts of her body that she's describing and those kinds of things, where she touches her knee, touches her back. Now her chin isn't thrust out and she's not defiant. And that's coming back from what just happened a few minutes ago. So maybe this is a place where she starts to hit something. Well, maybe I better be careful and walk through what I'm saying here. And there's also the risk of saying, of course, I went and got a massage after I ran over somebody, that is perceived that way. So she has to be cautious with that wording. And I think she's conscious of that. Chase, what do you got?
I love how she's never tolerant of these mischaracterized recaps that this lady is trying so hard to inject. And I think she does a fabulous job just responding by telling her side of the story, and does it without a lot of contempt, like you said, Greg, which is extremely hard to do for a lot of people when their characters are being assaulted like this. And this joke about the ski outfit is just bizarre, kind of awkward, and contrasted with the blue suit. I won't say anything about the blue suit. Scott, what do you got?
All right. That was Etude in Black. I just looked it up. That was the Columbo episode her mom's in. Anyway, so this is going to be full on, no questions asked, lip compression. We see it right there at the top where she's compressing her lips and she cuts her eyes over to the jury for a second, and we see her smile, but she's only smiling with her eyes because we see that squint in there. It kind of looks like a smile. So I think that's what's happening there. And, she's not, remember we did Murdaugh and he was all the time hamming it up for the jury. And then Greg and I talked to that juror at Dr. Phil, and he was like, man, we weren't buying that guy from day one. So she's not doing any of that. I agree with you, Chase. She's not worried about being believed because she's telling the truth. And she's under the impression just because you tell the truth, you're going to do fine. Well, in this case, I think she probably will, because I think she's probably being honest in this section anyway. I'm not seeing deception, nothing. They're seeing more of the same duck mouth, that high blink rate. And for me, nothing of big importance sticks out. Mark, what do you got?
Yeah, here's what I think is going on here, especially around this suit element, the ski suit. You probably had a better ski outfit, though, I bet. So it is an interesting comment, isn't it? And what it suggests is that you wear stuff better than everybody else. You have more money, you have more power, you are elite, you are taller, you're more powerful, you're better dressed, you have lunches, you go for massages, you have ski instructors that handle it, you are renowned. What is happening here is to raise her to a level whereby people will be envious of her. And I think the idea is to get the jury to be envious of her, because if the jury can be envious, certainly public perception would be, I understand that Gwyneth Paltrow can look condescending, is condescending, and can look and is elitist. I mean, she comes from, she's Hollywood royalty, no doubt about that. And there is absolutely no doubt that she sells absolute nonsense a lot of the time and talks medical idiocy a great deal of the time, okay? But what's happening here is trying to create an idea of envy, because if you can create envy, then you will want gold to be taken from the flaxen giant and delivered to the elven lord, and everything will be righted. But you've got to understand, giving gold to the elven lord, it doesn't deal with your envy. It's just an avatar of that. If you're envious of her, and that's what the lawyer wants. The lawyer wants you to be envious and say, she deserves justice to be rained down on her, which is we take money and we give it to that little guy over there. No, that's nothing to do with your envy of her that's being set up here. That's just somebody getting money that maybe shouldn't be getting money because maybe he ran into the back of her, because that seems to be what probably happened. Anyway, that's just my view on it. And I think that's why the lawyer has been setting up this idea of big and little all the way through.
You know what?
Yeah.
They chose the wrong story arc. They could have chosen a different type of story. You should never choose a story to make somebody look like a monster when in all reality, they look like a princess. They look like the characteristic princess. You make them look like the evil princess, not the evil dragon, which is kind of what they're maybe trying to do.
I think you're under the impression they're organized and they've talked about what they're going to do before this, because that little show there of the Three Stooges coming out and doing that, that's
that could not have been planned.
But they'll have enough idea of public perception, and the public perception is elitist.
I agree with you.
They'll be able to play on that. You know, she's disliked by many.
Well, they're trying. She is exactly trying to do. Let them eat cake is what she's trying to do right there. Hey, this guy's lying crippled on the ice, and I went in and had a massage while he suffered. Is what she's trying. Right. She's just not effective because she's leading questions. She's not saying, "Tell me what you did next." I went in and had a massage. Oh, well, he was laying on the. That would be very different than. Is it true that you left him lying on the slopes? You know, like a bad Perry Mason.
But she didn't even pull that off. You know what I mean?
No,
it still didn't work.
The eyewitness is you.
Okay. After the incident, you skied down, went to lunch, and then my understanding is you got a massage.
So after the accident, I met all the rest of the kids at lunch. We all gathered, we had lunch, and I still felt very shaky, and my knee was bothering me, my back was bothering me, so I decided to go in early and get a massage.
Okay. You never did seek any kind of medical treatment for your knee or your back?
No.
Okay. Now, at the scene, before you skied down and had lunch, there was no indication that Mr. Sanderson knew who you were. Is that fair?
I don't know.
Okay. I think, well, you testified there was no indication of that. You were wearing goggles, a helmet?
Yes.
Okay, kind of looked like everybody else on the slope?
That's always my intention.
Okay. Probably had a better ski outfit, though, I bet.
I still have the same one. I just have one.
Okay. So nobody on the hill would be able to recognize you. Is that fair? Maybe your family and friends.
I have been recognized on ski slopes before.
Okay. Do you recall testifying in your deposition that no one on the hill would be able to recognize me?
That would be the idea.
Okay.
But sometimes paparazzi has a way of figuring it out, is my point.
Okay. So your testimony to the jury here today is Mr. Sanderson skied into you.
That is correct.
All right. Craig Ramone, you said he's not telling the truth, or you don't believe him.
I'm telling you that what he said is not what happened.
Okay. So in other words, if somebody says something that's not what happened, they're lying.
He is not telling the truth.
All right.
I don't know if he knows he's lying, but I'm telling you what he said is unfortunately not the truth.
All right. Well, in addition to Mr. Ramone, you've sat here when some of the experts have testified. Mm-hmm. We had Dr. Gibby, and we heard Dr. Boehm. I always want to say Baum or Boehm.
Yes.
Boehm.
Mm-hmm.
You've heard their testimony that the only way that Mr. Sanderson's ribs could have been broken where they were is that if he was hit from behind. You disagree with that?
I think it misstates their testimony.
I guess I'm not sure what the objection is, but it's overruled. The jury will have to remember what the testimony was.
That means you get to answer. You disagree with their testimony?
Absolutely, I disagree.
Okay. What medical training do you have to disagree with that?
I'm just telling you the truth of what actually happened.
Okay.
That's all I can do.
All right. And you don't have any other witnesses who sought to support your position, correct?
Well, I have a lot of witnesses who saw the split seconds afterwards and the positions of the bodies on the mountain, which would indicate very clearly who hit who.
Okay. Do you have any witnesses who saw it?
Who saw the collision?
The collision?
No.
All right. And you're not trained in accident reconstruction?
Me?
Yeah.
No.
Neither am I. All right. So, Ms. Paltrow, isn't it true that this was an accident that you caused?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Would you agree that you are accident prone?
So, Your Honor, can we have a bench meeting on this?
Why don't we take our recess now?
All right, Greg, what do you got?
Yeah, I'll be short. She shows helplessness as both shoulders rise, as she's being congruent and saying, that's all I can do. Look, here's the truth, and that's what I got, is what we see in her body language. Her chin's up and her blink rate and her lips moving both as illustrators as she's making her point. And my only note about the attorney is, man, she wants rapport. I've interrogated prisoners I had better rapport with than this. So it's just interesting how badly she wants it and how hard she's willing to go after it. Mark, what do you got?
Yeah, she's in real trouble. The lawyer here chaffs and redirects on herself with that balm, bame, boom thing, trying to get into the detail of that, trying to go, look over here, look how detailed I'm being, look how smart I'm being over here, because essentially her argument, her whole process so far has been a complete failure. At the end, she says, neither am I. So, again, being diminutive on herself, really bad strategy, very unconfident as she's trying to attack the credibility of the witness. Just terrible work. Scott, what do you got?
I'm just going to talk about one thing. This is the first time we see a full-blown, full-on Duchenne smile. When she says, I'm just telling you the truth about what actually happened. I think she's actually fine. She gets the shits and giggles there a little bit. She's amused. And so that's why we see that real smile. And so if you want to know what Gwyneth Paltrow really looks like when she's really smiling, that's the one. Grab a clip of that, because that's a true smile right there. Chase, what do you got?
This is just badly done. It's like kind of a caricature of a movie lawyer. It's just over the top. She's openly calling the guy's testimony a lie, which you don't see, like less than 1% of the time. And then there's just like these lawyer techniques that maybe would have been written in a 1960s fiction book. Like, isn't it true that this is an accident you caused? Like, I'm going to sneak that one in, and she's going to say yes. I don't understand why these would be introduced. Gwyneth's behavior remains calm, confident, resilient here. No hesitancy, no loss of fluency, no stress markers. There's not even any qualifiers, like as far as I know, or to the best of my knowledge, as I recollect, or as I recall. This would be the pinnacle of stress. Right this moment, if she was being deceptive, this would be the pinnacle of stress and pressure, as Mark likes to say, stress and pressure, for a liar on the stand. And there's nothing. That's all I got.
The eyewitness is you.
So your testimony to the jury here today is Mr. Sanderson skied into you.
That is correct.
All right. Craig Ramone, you said he's not telling the truth, or you don't believe him.
I'm telling you that what he said is not what happened.
Okay. So in other words, if somebody says something that's not what happened, they're lying.
He is not telling the truth.
All right.
I don't know if he knows he's lying, but I'm telling you what he said is unfortunately not the truth.
All right. Well, in addition to Mr. Ramone, you've sat here when some of the experts have testified. Mm-hmm. We had Dr. Gibby, and we heard Dr. Bame. I always want to say Baum or Bohm.
Yes.
Bame.
Mm-hmm.
You've heard their testimony that the only way that Mr. Sanderson's ribs could have been broken where they were is that if he was hit from behind. You disagree with that?
I think it misstates their testimony.
I guess I'm not sure what the objection is, but it's overruled. The jury will have to remember what the testimony was.
That means you get to answer. You disagree with their testimony?
Absolutely, I disagree.
Okay. What medical training do you have to disagree with that?
I'm just telling you the truth of what actually happened.
Okay.
That's all I can do.
All right. And you don't have any other witnesses who saw it to support your position, correct?
Well, I have a lot of witnesses who saw the split seconds afterwards and the positions of the bodies on the mountain, which would indicate very clearly who hit who.
Okay. Do you have any witnesses who saw it?
Who saw the collision?
The collision?
No.
All right. And you're not trained in accident reconstruction?
Me?
Yeah.
No.
Neither am I. All right. So, Ms. Paltrow, isn't it true that this was an accident that you caused?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Would you agree that you are accident prone?
So, Your Honor, can we have a bench meeting on this?
Why don't we take our recess now?
A little while. So, it's not true, Ms. Paltrow, that you are just asking for $1. You are also asking, and this is not for the jury to decide, but this is for the court to decide later, you're asking for your attorney's fees in this case, which could be quite substantial. Is that not true?
So
It's a
I'm
yes- it's a
asking
yes
for
or no.
$1 for me and then reimbursement of attorney's fees, which is a separate thing,
And that could be a substantial amount, correct?
potentially.
Okay. And when your counsel got up waving that $1, don't you think that's a little bit of a mischaracterization?
Your Honor, she said. I have one more question on this issue, and this is now 3.
Overruled. Go ahead.
Don't you think that that's $1? That's a mischaracterization, isn't it?
I took it as I would receive that $1, which is all I am asking for.
Ms. Paltrow, isn't it true that you've misrepresented a number of things today to this jury?
Absolutely not.
No other questions.
I watched part of his of Terry being on the stand. This is beautiful. The way this attorney tears him apart. It's so classic. We're all going to use it in training. It is so good. When we start doing that, when you guys are going to absolutely love it. Have you seen any of it yet?
I haven't seen any of it. I'm looking forward to seeing it.
Go check it out. It's just like 3 hours of it. And you're just going, oh my gosh, I can't believe they let this go on. It's like once somebody, in the ring, when somebody gets beat up and they're laying there, looks like a cat all stretched out, and their eyes are closed. And it's like they keep punching them. They're pulling them off. That's what's happening, but nobody's pulling them off. And it's horrible.
At least my beautiful. Saturday morning will be amusing.
Oh, you're gonna love it, Greg. You're gonna be in such a good mood for once. So it'll be interesting to see. I'd love to be there.
I promise I'll record it.
I wish you would. Have Dina take a couple pictures. All right, Greg, what do you got? Yeah,
this is now we get the smug face. I'm going to leave everything else apart. Look, there's a face of confidence and even smug behavior in the face of an inadequate attorney. If you don't believe that, look at that chin thrust. Look at that contained smile at the sides. Look at the whole full-blown amusement in the face. The danger in this for her, and I'm just going to say this one last time, the danger in this for her is she has this perception of being kind of an ice princess of sorts, that she thinks she's better than other people. And when you eye lock somebody and you're smug, that looks like pity. And you got to be really, really careful when you're in front of people. Now, how that plays to the jury is probably highly related to this circus we've been seeing dancing around. But there's great contained, muted smile, upper face involvement and amusement, chin thrust forward, eyes narrowed. That is smug as you can get. Scott, what do you got?
Yeah, I focused on smug too, and the rest of it was focused on that attorney. And I'll get in trouble if I say what I was going to say. So, Chase, what do you got?
These questions are just like out of a movie or something. I've never seen them actually used like this, outside of a fictional movie or TV show. Like, it's not true that, or isn't it? Isn't it true that? So the more closed-ended the questions are, the deeper an attorney is in the hole. And see the same behaviors here on Gwyneth's side. I thought it was interesting the attorney's asking if something was a mischaracterization, and her entire deposition was an attempt at mischaracterization. I thought that was interesting. That's all I got.
Mark, what do you got?
And yeah, Mark.
No, listen, not a lot. There is for me a little bit of a deviation in baseline here when she leans into the mic and in a low voice says absolutely not. That's a little bit out of baseline. What might that be about? Is it about deception? I really don't think it is. I think, again, like the Fry voice that she was doing earlier on, it's to really frame it for the jury there. That's all I got on that one.
The eyewitness is you.
A little while. So it's not true, Ms. Paltrow, that you are just asking for $1. You are also asking, and this is not for the jury to decide, but this is for the court to decide later, you're asking for your attorney's fees in this case, which could be quite substantial. Is that not true?
So I'm asking for $1 for me and then reimbursement of attorney's fees, which is a separate thing.
And that could be a substantial amount, correct?
Potentially.
Okay. And when your counsel got up waving that $1, don't you think that's a little bit of a mischaracterization?
I have one more question on this issue, and this is now 3.
Oh, overruled. Go ahead.
Don't you think that that's $1? That's a mischaracterization, isn't it?
I took it as I would receive that $1, which is all I am asking for.
Ms. Paltrow, isn't it true that you've misrepresented a number of things today to this jury?
Absolutely not.
No other questions.
In those going back to what you were saying, Chase, in those newsreels back in the late 1920s, that's when microphones were first came into play as far as being in those reels and stuff. And when you go to the movies and see the news, quote unquote. And what they told them was because the diaphragms for the microphones were practically, they didn't get anything but the mids on stuff. So they'd have people talk up here like that. That's why they always sound so funny when they're talking. Yeah. So it sounds like that woman's getting ready to go. That's why they always sound like, yeah, Helen, that's why I'd like to get the shoes that you've got because they're trying to talk in that tone. That's the only thing missing from that attorney is that mid-range coming out, her talking in that voice and calling her some name from the late 20s, early 30s.
Well, isn't it true that you've been lying this whole time?
Yeah. And at the rate she's going, Firefly will get her pitch up there anyway. So.
Yeah. Well, yeah, she talks like a gangster. Isn't it true? Yeah. That you're lying. Hey, Mark, what have you seen so far as we're let's talk about this a second. What do you think you've seen so far in this?
Yeah, look, here's the way I'm thinking about this is I think if the attorney is doing anything, it's to try and create a sense of envy in for the jury and for us, the audience of it. I think everybody, me included, we have to be careful that our idea of victimhood doesn't come from envy. If we feel we're the victim of something, and that's what's trying to happen here, is there's the idea that somebody has been a victim of somebody crashing into him, but is being set up with, well, it's right because this person is so elite, this idea of envy. I just think we've got to be careful of that. If we're feeling envious of Gwyneth Paltrow, be careful that we don't want to hand something to any old victim that comes along. I am envious of Gwyneth Paltrow, but as I was saying to the guys earlier, more money than I've ever earned in my life, I think, has been spent on her hair. And listen, I know hair and I know how much it costs. Okay, I know how much it costs to have good hair. Like that is expensive, and I am envious of that hair. It looks amazing. Chase, what do you got?
Keep in mind, most of our memories, or half or a little more of our memories, are just about all fiction. Every time we touch a memory, we edit it. And then when you look back at that edited memory, you're not seeing an edited memory, you're seeing memory. So this person's testimony, Gwyneth's testimony, and the witness who saw it, our memories are flawed. There's thousands of cases that people have been wrongly put in jail because of eyewitness testimony. And court cases often come down to a battle of persuasion and communication, with every gesture and every word potentially affecting the outcome. And understanding these nuances is super important. Greg, what do you think so far?
Yeah, so far what I see is a combination of things. You just hit one of them. Is it doesn't matter what someone says. Eyewitness testimony is not reliable. We know that. There's all kinds of tricks you can play on people's minds by asking and framing the question a certain way that you get a certain answer. Remember that when a human being is sitting down, you're talking to two brains. You're talking to the brain that is in charge and trying to make decisions about the future. You talk about to the body brain, the one that's there to protect us. So when we talk about limbic thought and a person laid down those memories in limbic thought, those memories aren't even accessible in the thinking brain. They're shadowy memories. We know that from my SEER experience. And the more likely you are to go into fight or flight, the more likely you are to be able to get access to those. Now, let's also talk about the effect of fame and living in the spotlight your whole life. That makes you more comfortable in front of people than other people. All of us are more comfortable than an average person. We're not as comfortable as some other people would be. But that body and brain fight that has to happen when you first sit down is highly dependent on what you're seeing as a threat. Once that threat is assuaged and you no longer see it as a threat, things change. We can physically see, in my opinion, in this video, in these videos, that switch flip, because these people had a circus of behavior, and you see her start to become indignant at what they're doing. And if they were smart enough to not stop right there, but then to push her to the point she came across as very arrogant, then you might be able to push that over to the jury. Their job now is going to be very difficult, in my opinion. Scott, what are you seeing so far?
Going back to what you're talking about hair, Mark, I haven't had a haircut in almost 5 months, and that's why I'm wearing this hat. And Marty goes, what are you wearing that hat for? I took it off and showed you guys what it is. I have to it has to go the long. If you watch that Dr. Phil thing, you'll see my hair comes all the way around to here. I have to comb it back. That's horrible. So that's why I'm wearing the hat. So I think you're right, though. I think she spent a whole lot of money on that hairdo. But I think this is a fantastic example of someone who could hold that duck mouth over and blink like that for hours. It's unbelievable. I don't know why she doesn't have a headache. And just when I was trying to keep my duck mouth going during that one thing, and my lips started quivering. It was really tough. Chase says he tried to do it, but he didn't. So I won that, just so you know, Chase.
Well, let the comments decide.
Bell's palsy. I thought you had Bell's palsy.
Won't either. Do what, Greg?
I thought you had Bell's palsy. I was wondering what was going on.
Oh, man. Yeah, it was looking pretty rough there for a minute. I tried my best. And, of course, Chase didn't, because he just had his wasn't as full on as mine was. So there's that. Anyway.
Well, you've got you have more puffy lips than I do. It might be an allergy problem. I got a guy you can talk to.
Okay. I'll probably need that. All right, fellas. I think this is another good one, and we'll see you next time.
So what do you got?